All right, folks, we have 48 seconds to go. Going to be fun. Make sure you have things to write on, to write with, caffeinated beverages, oxytocin and stimulating substances, and get ready to play because we got to play. If you're not playing, you're not learning. All right. Hey, from Montana. All right. Hello, 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 everybody. This is Dr. David. Welcome to Face Reading for Fun and Profit. For the next 2.5, 3 hours, I will be your guide through what I've come to believe to be one of the most fascinating and useful disciplines I've ever had experience to study, and I've studied a lot. Hold on, I turn off my Zoom alarm because apparently Zoom wants to let me know you're all here, but I already know that because I'm ahead of Zoom apparently. All right, so all right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do my little pregame warm up. I usually do it about 15 to 20 minutes before we jump on the air, so people have a time to prepare because sometimes the notices go out late or whatever. So first and foremost, if this is your first time with me, I need you to do something for me. I need you to type your name, where you're checking in from, and type first time in the chat. If you're not a first timer, if you're a David Veteran Pro or a longtime resident of Planet David, please type in your name, where you're checking in from, and how long you've been a follower or a practitioner or a resident, whatever word you want to use, of Planet David. And the reason for that is because I want all of our new people to know that they're not alone, and that if for some reason they ask a question and I don't see it or I don't get to it or I think it's going to take us off topic, that they have another resource that they can go to get those questions answered. And that's what I want you guys who are my veterans to help out with in a non-distracting way. If you see people keep asking a question that either I don't see or I believe is going to take us off track, and you have direct experience answering that question or have solved that question in your life, I want you to just reach out to them privately or in a non-distracting way. Answer the question for them in the chat. Now, if you want an answer directly from me, when many people do, and that's perfectly okay, there's two basic ways you're going to get your questions answered. First and foremost is obvious. You type it in the chat. If I see it and I feel it's in line with where we're at in the webinar, I'm going to answer it. That's simple. However, a lot of times questions people have, and especially from our YouTube contingent, I get questions that have nothing to do with the content of the webinar. They're just happy to be able to talk to me and ask questions. And I love that. I really do. But a lot of times I can't answer those questions because it's going to take us down rabbit holes that we're not here to learn about. So to be fair, if you have a question like that, or there's a question that I just simply did not answer on the webinar, at the end of this webinar, YouTube will automatically create a replay of it, and it will post it in our live video section. If you go to that section after the video, usually it's anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, the video becomes live or something like that. Just type your question in the comments section, because I make it a practice to visit my YouTube channel, the back end of it, 4 or 5 times a day, and make sure that the questions get processed, answered, whatever. If I can answer that question, I will. Usually through a direct answer. I'll point you at a product, I'll point you at one of our YouTube videos, or I'll point you at another resource that I think might be a better fit for you. So those are the 3 ways you get your questions answered. Make sure you have things to write on. One of the things about our particular webinars is they're not really like regular webinars. They're more like online mini classes. And so everything, you don't have to believe anything that we're going to share with you today. All we ask is that you come in with the spirit of having fun, know why what it is you want to take away from the webinar tonight, do the drills, get the skills, and when I give you an opportunity to level up, you go ahead and you take that opportunity. The more you participate in the class tonight, the more powerful an experience you're going to have. And I found that while data is fun to learn and to acquire, it's the experiences of things, the person we become by doing something, that actually creates transformation in us. And I'm pretty sure none of you are here to stay because you want to stay the same. Most of you are, would this be true or not true for you? You're here because you want to take the randomness out of your life. Would that be true for you? If that's true for you, type that in the chat. Okay. And once again, the other thing I want to just tell you up front, I am a deeply needy person. And what that means is I love interactiveness. I love the give and take. I love dialoguing. So I try to create as much connection as possible between myself and my audience, because I want you guys to feel like you're part of something really special and really important. Because you are. You're very special. You're very important to me. So my job here is to show you how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And if this is the scope of everything there is to learn in tonight's webinar, I got time to give you about this much, right? Honestly. So here's kind of my promise to you. For those of you, and you guys have heard me say this before, and I try to make it as true as possible. Tonight, I will take you as far as I can in the time that we have to give you an understanding of face reading, what it can do, its potentials for how it can change your life. I will teach you as much as I can in the time that we have, and I will point you in the direction of where to go to take the next step. Is that a fair trade? If you think that's fair trade, go ahead and type that in the chat form. Let's see here. Perfect. All right, let me just pop this chat out so I'm not perpetually if you see me looking back and forth, it's because I got dueling chat boxes here, and I'm trying to look at my PowerPoints, look at my notes, and make sure I'm giving you guys good FaceTime, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so first and foremost, let me give you my disclaimers, then we're going to jump into class. First and foremost, if politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, not the best use of your next 2.5 to 3 hours. My intention is never to offend anyone, but many times the things I say, because they're based on research, they're based on the way the world is, not the way that we want the world to be. A lot of these things can provoke feelings and responses in you. And that's fine, because when those things come up, that's an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity for you to realize there's some kind of unresolved emotional issue going on. That's something that happened in this webinar provoked. It's your chance to point to where you feel it, make a note of it, and then go back and use one of our transformation techniques to clear that out, right? We don't know we have a problem many times until we run into something that provokes it. And face reading, I'll just tell you right up front, if you decide to follow the path of face reading and become a face reader, then you will gain the closest thing to a superpower humanly possible, with the exception of the NLP Ultra trainings, which go hand in hand with this. So people ask me about face reading and is this shit even real, right? So first and foremost, before I get into that part of it, let's make sure that we're in the right place. So if you can answer yes to any of these questions, this is a place for you to be. And by the way, our webinars do run long and they're heavy on content. So if you were planning on a 90-minute webinar, I want to rethink those plans, right? Otherwise, make sure you stay till the end, because we got some really cool stuff for you. So if you'd like to discover how people think, feel, and behave, go ahead and type "that's me" in the chat. If you'd like to become more irresistibly charismatic, persuasive, and attractive, type "that's me" in the chat, or "that's for me, I want that." If you'd like to earn more money in your job, move up the ladder, hire better people, choose better mates, and get better dates, type that in the chat. If you'd like to protect yourself from manipulating and sociopathic and narcissistic motherfuckers out there, type that in the chat. If you'd like to have people literally hanging on your every word and making up excuses to spend more time with you so you can give them the advice and tell them what they should be doing with their life. If you're a coach, a therapist, a hypnotist, a mentor of any kind, this is solid gold, right? If you're building teams and leading groups, would you like to be able to know who's the right person for the job just by the features of their face, right? Like I said, aside from NLP and hypnosis, this is one of the most god awful powerful tools I've ever come across for making life easier. Okay. And if you'd like to understand yourself better and stuff, just type that in the chat. Okay. Because as far as a self-exploration tool, I haven't found many things that are better than face reading. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about just so I know you understand you guys better. How many of you is this? Let me just go back to. I'm just going to scroll up here real quick. How many of you is this first time in a webinar with me? Looks like all of you are veterans here. Okay. All right, good. Okay, cool. All right, so I'll get into my bio in a minute, but a lot of people when I start talking about face reading, especially my colleagues in the behavioral sciences world, one of the things that they always is this stuff real? Is this like phrenology? Is this like feeling the bumps on somebody's head? And my first answer is hell no. The system that you're going to learn is my adaptation of what I learned from my teacher. So let me share her with you really quick, because I really recommend, if you don't know who she is or you haven't seen her book, this is important, and it's important from a Chinese perspective to always honor your lineage. So what you're seeing here, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. I'm not a big PowerPoint guy because it's too boring. So what you're seeing here is this is my teacher. This is a very young Lillian Bridges, because this is how when I think of her, this is how I remember her, even though she died a couple decades after this picture was taken. But this is my teacher, the late Lillian Pearl Bridges. She is the author of the Face Reading in Chinese Medicine, and she was considered pretty much by everyone on the planet as the world's leading authority on face reading in Chinese medicine. And she was absolutely brilliant in her ability to create complete profiles of a person's personality just by looking at specific areas of their face in a specific order and sequence. She was sought after worldwide, and I was very, very fortunate to be able to train with Lillian, and I miss her a lot. But I want people to know that this is my lineage, and this is the person who taught me, and I miss her. And if you look immediately to your right, this was one of the very first graphics that Lillian, not the classical Chinese Jing thing, but this particular picture right here. This picture is from a book on Chinese medicine that is over 2,500 years old. Chinese face reading is actually a derivative or an aspect of Chinese medical diagnosis. When we look at a person's face, we can diagnose everything from the condition of your lungs, your stomach, your spleen, your pancreas, to your emotional health and trauma history, to your dominant personality traits and temperament. Now, one of the things that I've found that I haven't been able to really crack, and I don't think Lillian could either, is one of the things that a face reading training, at least the ones that I have, will not tell you is somebody's character. So in other words, you may see somebody who is very courageous, very dominant, very assertive, and that person could be an evangelist, a high-ranking spiritual teacher, or they could be a gangster. Same traits, same characteristics, but the character is very different. The direction that those traits are pointing is very different. So one of the things I want to really emphasize with you as you're learning these materials is that there are certain things you'll be able to look at somebody like Lillian. Just a little background on Lillian, just so you know how rigorous and how proven this stuff is. There were two separate intelligence agencies that wanted to hire Lillian to teach their operatives face reading. And Lillian said no, because first of all, her father was a CIA, worked for the CIA. The second thing is that she was afraid that this material could be misused. And I encouraged her to reconsider working with these people, not because they're the guardians of democracy, really, although that's technically true, but more because if people want your material, they're going to learn your material. The difference being is that if you have a role in how that material is being disseminated, you have more influence. You have the ability to gentle some other, to kind of say, can we not do it this way or whatever. Whereas if they just appropriate your stuff, they're going to use it however they want. Now, granted, it's not a big, it's, if they're going to use it, they're going to use it. But that was kind of when we were having this discussion, that was my thoughts on it, because I thought it was an opportunity for more people to learn this science. What's interesting is even in the more advanced behavioral sciences, military applications, there are elements of face reading that are actively used. I signed 3 non-disclosures, so I can't really tell you what or who that is, but I can tell you that it is used. Okay, so it's cool. So let's talk about something else that I think is, we talk about face reading. What is actually possible with face reading? Can we use face reading to make more money? The answer is a resounding yes. Can we use face reading to improve our relationships or date better quality people? Absolutely. 2 of the most powerful applications that classical face reading was used for were business and legal applications and matchmaking. Aside from the medical aspects of it, if you wanted to select a partner, you would go consult, or to set up a marriage or whatever, you would go and you would consult the face reader. In the old Chinese systems, or the imperial systems, documents were very, very easy to forge. If you wanted to move up, you had to have a certain set of education and credentials. And so one of the things that would happen is you would submit your resume, you would submit your documentation, and then you would go see the face reader. And if your facial characteristics didn't match your application, they started looking at you real hard. Okay, it's really, really interesting. Now, lest you think that idea of using some form of not physiognomy, but face reading or organic profiling tool is unique. For many years, I don't know if it's still true, but when I was back in the early 90s, I was studying with a guy named Bart Baggett. With graphoanalysis, and I consider Bart to be the world's leading authority on handwriting graphoanalysis. And one of the things that he and his dad used to say was, if you were applying for a job in France and Europe, many times, one of the first things that they would be very upset if you typed anything, because they wanted to analyze your handwriting. They wanted to know, okay, what are the guy's personality traits? What is woman's personality traits? Are there characteristics of fit for this application, right? Because if you have somebody who is a very fast, what we call a comprehensive thinker, like they can do things out of order, they think very fast, they handle ambiguity really, really well, putting them in a job where they're just stamping documents every day is going to drive them batty, and they're not going to excel, because it's not dynamic or fluid an occupation for them. Whereas somebody who's a cumulative thinker, who has more serotonin influence in their life, they're very steady, they're very consistent, they like to do things, they tend to like repetitive tasks, they tend to do well at repetitive tasks. That would be the perfect job for someone with, if you were using the Fisher temperament sort of what we call a builder type person, or someone who has a strong serotonergic influence in their body. So the face reading is one of the most useful tools, because I can use the word diagnosis because I have a doctor in front of my name. Most people can't use that word. So we'll talk about profiling. Okay. How do we profile people? When I look at somebody, I can profile everything from their physical health and constitution all the way up to their emotional baggage. I can even look at a person's ear and tell when their siblings were born. It's bizarre, right? And what's interesting from a therapeutic or coaching aspect, if you see clients or you mentor people or coach people, and you're helping people resolve emotional traumas, for example, if you help them unpack that particular facial feature or marking, and you successfully resolve it, the marking will start to fade. Very bizarre. First time Lillian said that, I literally yelled bullshit from across a crowded auditorium. And then she looked at me and from across the room proceeded to read my entire personality. And I was hooked. And so I've been it launched me on a whole other path of study and understanding from the ancient Chinese systems and what they actually knew versus what they were actually letting people believe they knew. So that being said, what else can you do with this stuff? Well, first and foremost, let me go to this really quick. Well, you can begin to become more socially magnetic and charismatic, find sexually and emotionally compatible mates. You can select the right kind of employees for your job. I covered a lot of this already. How many people here do any kind of sports or work with people in things like performance enhancement or finding the right jobs, that kind of thing? Anybody? Right. Well, even if you don't, one of the things that face reading is really good for is you can look at somebody's face and their physiognomy, and you can tell if they're going to be a good fit for a particular sport or athletic activity. So, a lot of really good stuff that we can do with face reading. So, let's go through my bio really quickly, just because I want to be complete with you guys. Let me find my share screen here. All right, here we go. All right, so first and foremost, I am an actual doctor. This is a copy of my diploma from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I've been a practicing acupuncturist and herbalist and energetics practitioner since 2005. I've had a clinic in Solana Beach where my focus has been using hypnosis, NLP, energetics to treat physiological illness that is caused by repressed emotion. And that's where face reading fit in dramatically well, because face reading was allowed me to look at a person's face and know what kind of emotional baggage they were carrying around that they've been denying and repressing. So it was a really useful tool for me, because as I was doing my intake, I would be listening to what they say and writing down their exact words, and I'd be looking at their faces and I'd be watching the markings actually shift and change as they cycled through various emotions. It was really powerful. And I could see the difference from the beginning of the session to the end of the session, how their faces shifted. And you will too. That's the other thing I want to, and what I was going at with some of my earlier stuff is, if you start using face reading, I want you to use it with respect, because people will become hyper responsive to everything you say and do. Okay. For those of you who don't know much about me, in addition to my background as a face reader and Oriental medical practitioner, I've also been named one of the #1 NLP trainers in the world, and I've been in the top 2 for the last 8 years. I've authored over 15 different products on face reading, influence, profiling, therapeutics, energetics, law of attraction, you name it. The course that I'm going to be driving some of these things from is called Killer Influence. It was voted the #1 NLP training program in the world for the last 3 years. I don't know if we made it for 2024 yet, but I'll go look at Global Gurus and see if we made it, and I'll post an update. This is a copy of our Global Gurus page, right? And we'll be talking a lot. This is Killer Influence version 2, Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is something we're going to talk a lot about today as part of the face reading curriculum, because Defense Against the Dark Arts was a course I designed to teach people how to protect themselves against malevolent influence. So, everything from cult recruiters to human traffickers to domestic abusers, misogynists, con artists, things of that nature. These people have tells. And so we started putting together a program that would allow the average human being to be able to look at somebody and begin to create a personality profile. And then based on that profile, they could follow up and do further research to find out if the person that is interacting with them is actually somebody they want more time with, right? So we called it Defense Against the Dark Arts. And it too was named the #1 NLP training program in the world by Global Gurus pretty much since we launched it. So we have 2 #1 NLP training programs under our belt. The Defense Against the Dark Arts course, I want you to really kind of put a little star next to that in your mind for right now, because a lot of what we're going to be doing is directly relevant to protecting yourself. Okay. I also have I've been a lifelong martial artist for most of my life. I have a 10th degree black belt in Ryukyu Kempo Karate. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kung Tao, 2nd degree black belt in Kosho-ryu, 1st degree black belt in Fankaru Jiu-Jitsu. I'm also a certified instructor in Combat Sistema, Cinco Mano Eskrima, Modern Arnis. And as you can see below, I have more energy healing credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. They are not all listed there, but you can see that I've been around. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing martial arts up is because, believe it or not, The very first exposure I ever had to face reading was actually almost 35 years ago when I first started learning Ryukyu Kempo, Kyusho Jitsu, and Tuite. It was a martial art that is very controversial to certain people. And it's an art that deals specifically with manipulating the acupuncture points, meridians, and energy systems of the body. Now, a lot of Chinese and old classical martial arts systems talk about manipulating energy. But the Kyusho systems, actually, you could just touch people and they would just drop, right? Because certain parts of the body think of it like being energetically allergic to other parts of the body. So if you touch them or stimulated them in certain sequences, people would just bail. Their bladder would give out, they'd poop themselves, or they'd just pass out. And one of the things we were taught in the advanced training was, how do we look at somebody and know where they're energetically vulnerable, right? And you can look at somebody's face and know if they have more energy in their gallbladder meridian versus their kidney meridian, more energy in their triple warmer or in their stomach meridian or their small intestine meridian, right? And based on that, you would know what targets are most likely to have the greatest degree of sensitivity for self-defense applications. So it's interesting how a lot of the things I'm doing began with martial arts, and then they come back to martial arts. And so that's why I bring that, because a lot of times when I show this slide, people say, okay, so it's a face reading class, it's an NLP class, it's a covert hypnosis class. Why is he showing me a picture of him in his martial arts uniform? It's because there's so much of this now in my life. To me, they're all the same. But a lot of times people don't understand those connections. And I want you to understand that there's a much deeper field going on here, right? So when people look at all this, and I'm giving you guys a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, so to speak. So people look at this stuff and they say, hey, okay, great, David. What the hell does all this have to do with face reading? Well, what all these things have in common? Face reading. Martial arts, it's all about pattern recognition. Pressure point work, all about pattern recognition. Acupuncture and Oriental medicine, it's all about pattern recognition. Neuro-linguistic programming, applied behavior theory, face reading, all of them are about pattern recognition. There are certain repeating patterns that we all have. Some we are conscious of, some we're not. Each of those patterns has a structure that can be identified. And once you can identify the structure, once you can identify the pattern, you now have the ability to predict what is likely to happen or to influence what is likely to happen. How many of you would like to be able to predict what people are most likely to say and do at any given moment? If you think that's a useful skill, type that in the chat. Hello? Okay, there we go. Must be a little lag. Yeah, right? Being able to predict human behavior is massive. It's huge, right? If you would like to be able to influence human behavior positively or in other ways, type that in the chat. All right. So what does pattern recognition have to do with face reading? Pretty much everything. And as you guys are chiming in right now, everything to do with you. Because if you want to be able to predict behavior, you only need to know two things, basically. What's their pattern? What's the context? If you know those two things, you can reliably predict what they'll do next. Now, if you know what they've done in the past, plus you know their pattern, plus you know the context, now it's 90 in the high 90th percentile of what they're going to do. But now that also means, because you understand the patterns, you can now change those patterns, or you can redirect that behavior to something more useful for you getting your outcome. Anybody here interested in getting their outcome more often? Type that in the chat if you're interested in getting your outcome more often. Perfect. All right. So here's my promise to you. If you stay until the end of tonight's webinar, and the webinar is going to probably go a little long because there's a lot of information that I want to share with you. And like I said before, you don't have to believe a single thing that I'm going to teach you tonight. All you got to do is go out and use it, right? If you stay until the end of tonight's webinar, I'm going to share with you the most powerful method for speed reading and profiling personality and behavior that has literally stood the test of time, literally over 2,500 years in the Chinese medical systems alone. I'm going to teach you how to understand and profile personality and temperament. Notice I did not say character, right? How to track and understand a person's trauma history, how to look at somebody's face and literally know, oh, they're carrying some serious baggage in this particular area or from this particular age. How to gauge and understand the process of sexual and romantic compatibility. Would anybody here like to have a more fulfilling romance? Or for those of you who are more earthy of nature, have better sex life? Anybody here want that? It's okay, I'm not going to tell, right? Right? How would you guys like a reliable system for reading personality and temperament? Right? That's exactly what we're going to play with tonight. And finally, I'm going to teach you how to go from being a visitor, a tourist, so to speak, to becoming a master of reading, influencing, and understanding people and helping people, starting with yourself, to become the captains of their fate, so to speak, right? To get on your golden path, right? So let me just make sure that I haven't left anything out. Okay, so that's good. All right, so I am gonna jump out of the OneNote for a moment here. And let me just go back to my OneNote. That was actually my PowerPoint, not my OneNote. All right. So let me ask you guys a question. What if it were possible? Now, let's think about it this way. I mean, let me paint a picture for you. What if you could look at somebody, okay, right? Look at their face, right? And know how they make decisions. Would that be a useful skill? Okay, great. Since I have a face that we can work with, let's start there. Okay, so one of the first things I want you to understand is when you start to read faces, right, you have to divide it into zones. Okay, so the first thing when we look at a face, we want to divide it by, depending on what aspect of a person we're trying to read, we want to divide it several ways. So you can divide it from top to bottom. You can divide it from right to left. You can divide it into thirds this way. Each of those divisions is going to tell us a different aspect of a person, okay? So we're not going to play too much with bottom heavy and top heavy because that actually is a little scary for some people, right? And it can give people the wrong idea. But one of the things that bottom heavy and top heavy faces tell us is when you come into your own, when you become famous or become known for something, your reputation, will it be early in life or later in life, right? There's other things. And when you come to face reading, we have a face reading certification coming up in April, and we'll talk more about that. For those of you who want to become certified face readers and actually, how many of you would like to actually, how many of you actually see clients of any kind, just so I know? Terry does, okay. Boyce does, okay. What if you could add another income stream to your client work? Right. Well, when I do a face reading, my price, I charge what my teacher charged, and Lillian would charge $750 a client to do a face reading, and people love it. It's better than going to a psychic, right? So if for those of you who are looking to add an income stream that you can use to promote your other business. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I know because of my demographic and my client avatars, a lot of you are hypnotists, neurolinguistic programmers, or coaches, psychotherapists, marriage and family therapists. True, not true? Anything that anybody who sees clients that is not in one of those in a occupation I didn't name. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of times people don't believe that you can do what you say you can do, unless you put them in a chair and you blast them, right? But what if you could look at somebody and start telling them about themselves, telling them information about themselves, their best friends, or maybe only their best friends or intimate partners or immediate nuclear family know, and start talking to them about their issues? Do you think maybe that person might start thinking of and becoming more trusting of you as the person who can help them solve those problems? Do you think that might, right? Now, if I were going to do this, and I do this, when people can sign up and work with me from a face reading perspective, and what happens is when we talk about that, we're going to talk about all these issues and all of these things that they're going to need to resolve or help resolving. And then from there, if I want to do the work, or I feel I'm qualified to do the work, I can, the technical term is upsell or transition them into a therapeutic relationship as opposed to a face reading relationship. When I'm doing therapeutic things with people, and I start reading people's faces, I can track what's going on with them, but I can also look at their face and say, I'm curious about something. What happened when you were 7? And all of a sudden, something they didn't even know was an issue, the unconscious mind will unlock it for us, and we can take them even further in their therapeutic journey, right? Now, I would never unpack something without a client's express permission, or do an intervention without a client's express permission. But I wanted to get, for those of you who are looking for ways to earn more money and build your practice and draw more people into your practice, that one of the most powerful tools you can have is face reading, because you could do a meetup, you could go to a bookstore, any kind of bookstore really, and do a little face reading mini seminar and start reading people's faces and have clients signing up to work with you that night. I say that because, you know, the people who are working in the back of the system here, they do that. I go and I teach a webinar and they want help, and I point them at my associates and they do the work. So this is a really, I think for you guys, as cool as reading people and being able to do all those things is, if you want to level up and actually become a face reader and help more people with this and help yourself at the same time, this is a great opportunity. So sidebar, right? So top and bottom is going to teach us when you're going to come into your own, so to speak. But you can divide people into 2 or 3 basic decision-making families. What do I mean by that? Let me show you my PowerPoint and we'll jump into this a little bit more. Has this been useful so far? Type yes in the chat if it's been useful. Cool. All right. Can I keep going with this, or do you want me to talk about something else? I can talk about cleaning my pool, which is weird because I don't have a pool. All right. Not yet. All right. All right. So share screen. Okay. So first thing we want to look at when we look at faces, I gave you a quick primer on this already. So let me see if I can make this bigger. You know what? I'm going to come back to this one because I was talking about decisions, and that's where we want to go. All right. So you can all see this okay? All right. So when you look at a person's face, the upper zone from basically the line of the eyebrows to the top of the head is considered what we call the heaven zone. Now, unless you study Chinese medicine, that means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. But what it does indicate, if you translate that into more of a Western perspective, it means they're data-driven. They love abstract thought, information, and ideas. They're very heady people. Okay? And so people with a much larger upper zone, That's what they lead with when they move through the world. They live from the data side of things. My good friend Brandon, who is also we went into a pseudo partnership many years ago, and he handles a lot of my tech stuff. Whenever I ask Brandon a question, if you look at his face, he's basically like me. He's got a big old diamond shaped head. I don't have a diamond shaped head, but I have a big upper zone. Every time I ask him a question, he answers me with a spreadsheet. Right? He loves data. He's a programmer, and you'll see this. So when you see someone whose upper zone is larger than the other two zones, you have somebody who wants data first. They want numbers, they want research, they want proof, for lack of a better word, right? They want to see it, they want to hear it, they want to be able to hold it in their hands, even if they're tactile or not, but they're data driven. So if you come at somebody and say, hey, I've got this amazing program, you're going to love it, it's not going to do anything. Okay? Because the first question out of their mouth is, show me the data, show me the proof, and then I'll decide. Right? My wife is this way. Whenever I would talk to her about a study that I read, she would say, show me the report, show me the research, and I'll make my own conclusions. Right? They're very analytical people. Okay? Data driven. Right? Now, sometimes you look at somebody and you'll see that the middle zone, oops, I think I just locked up. There we go. Sometimes my computer gets finicky, especially when I start doing any topic that has energy around it, and face reading definitely has an energetic. All right, let me give it a minute. Yeah, I've my mouse locked up. Yeah, let the people downstairs know that I had to change computers. What? All right, guys, I'm sorry, my computer just locked up, so I'm going to have to either switch computers or reboot. So please stay with me while we handle this tech snafu. But in the meantime, grab a mirror or go to a mirror and look at the space from your eyebrows to the top of your head and compare that to the other three zones of the face. And we'll do that. We'll actually do that with my picture here when we get back to normal functioning. Okay, guys, I'm on my backup computer. So give me a moment to figure out why my picture's not showing.
So pin you real quick, that's fine.
Well, there I am.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize myself.
Spotlight for everyone.
All right. So don't mind me. If my screen seems to be rocking, it's because literally I'm on an unstable surface as I'm reading. So we're on decision making. Okay. So, like I said before, upper zone. Hold on a second.
Can you
Is all about abstract data, creativity, thoughts. Middle zone is all about pragmatism. It's all about the results. What's this going to do for me? How is this going to make my life easier? How is this going to take the randomness out of my life? They don't care about the data until they know what it's going to do for them. Okay. And then finally, your lower zone. These are the people that are very instinct or emotion or gut driven. And what I mean by that is that they're not interested in the data yet. They're not interested in what it's going to do for them. Their biggest question is, do I love it? Do I love it? Right? They're going to follow their gut. They're going to go with their instincts. Okay. So now, one of the challenges that you have when we explain this model to people is that people think they're either one or the other. But the truth is, you aren't. You're all of these. The question becomes, which one do you do first?
Recording in progress.
Right? Because that we would call that an NLP your lead system. Right?
I think we're ready to switch.
Okay. Hold on. I think we're back to our regularly scheduled program.
And you should be online there. Okay, so it just needs to be visible now.
I am visible. Well, the camera's on. What did you do here?
I did not.
Hold on a second. I know what happened. Can you stop doing that? All right. There we go. I'm back. And look, an old favorite background. All right. So let me go ahead and turn my background off so that you can see some of what I'm talking about. All right. So can't hear a thing. You sure?
Oh, you pressed the button on here before.
No, it was I unmuted it. No, so that says sound is fine. Okay. So for those of you, did you guys see the diagram I was working with? Type it in the chat. Okay. So remember that if you have somebody that is larger here, and as you can see from my picture, from that angle especially, I have a much higher data zone, right? So I'm a big investigator. I influence. So Sandra's saying no. What does that mean, Sandra? What are we referring to here, sweetie? Okay. And I do, by the way, I do apologize for those tech snafus. I'm not sure if it's my wonky energy that's doing it, if there's something going on with the computer, but I really hate when we lose continuity. So just so I'm sure that we're all tracking the same. What questions do you have about what we've covered so far? Just type it in the chat. It's my magical energy. Thanks, Nan. Will the certification be in person only or remote? We're going to be doing a hybrid certification. So if you can make it, we would highly encourage it. But if for some reason you can't make it out to San Diego for the 3-day, we will be streaming it. So I'd love to have as many of you in the room as possible for that. So so Sanjeev is asking regarding the top, middle, and lower part of the face, is one born with these? Yes and no. You'll remember I said earlier that when you start unpacking a person's face, and there's a marking that's related to a life event or a trauma or a repressed emotion, and you successfully remove that or resolve it, that marking will change. The truth is, our faces are changing all the time. Okay. When you come into this world, there's a concept in Taoism, and it's probably also, let's say, Asian culture in general, especially the Chinese, Japanese, Korean systems. There's this thing they call destiny, or Ming, in the Chinese systems. Ming literally means destiny. And basically what that is your mission in this life, what you took on a body to come here and do. Right. And we actually have classes on helping people find their life purpose and their life mission. So if you're seeing clients, I'm sure you've had clients in your chair or getting into your chair saying, I know I'm supposed to do something with my life. I know it. I just wish I knew what that thing was. Anybody here ever experienced that with a client, or even have yourself do it yourself? Sure. Right. The Taoist systems call that Ming, your reason for taking on a body. And what's really cool about Ming and destiny is that when you actually get on, and Lillian called it the golden path. Okay. When you get on that golden path, it's not that your life is free of problems. You're always going to have challenges because you're here to grow and evolve as a spiritual being. But what happens is you start living your best life. You get younger, you get healthier, you tend to make more money, you have more fun. Everything about your life becomes progressively more fulfilling. And it's through the integration of all these aspects of things that make your heart sing, integrated into a life direction. And so Lillian would have these classes called Golden Path, where she would help people using face reading and inventorying your life experiences, how to identify what that golden path is and help people get on it. And I took the reins on that, and I started doing my own versions of Golden Path, and people have absolutely loved it. And it's transformational. It will absolutely, I just did a weekend class on finding the love, getting the love you want the way you want it. And I used 2 of the techniques from the Golden Path class to help people gain tremendous clarity on who they were, what was important to them, what would make them happy, what their values were, what their boundaries were. And all of a sudden, everything about their lives started to fall into place, right? And that's what a golden path is about. Golden path isn't about the right job for you or the right mate. Those are parts of a golden path. But a golden path, or Ming, is about a life direction. So that's a very long, drawn out way to answer Sanjeev's question, but I needed to put that in there because one of the things that the Golden Path is about what the Taoists call getting back to your original face. Your original face is that spiritual soul being that you are before you took on a body. And the Taoists say that you are never closer to your original face than when you're first born. So the face of a newborn has tremendous amounts of information about who that person truly is and what their golden path might be. And as we go through the process of growth and socialization and education and all these life experiences, our face starts to change because of those experiences, because of the emotions and everything else. And so we tend to move further and further away from that original face. So much so is that the Taoists say that by the time you reach the age of 45 or 50, you've got the face you deserve, right? The golden path is a way of reversing that process, of moving us back towards that more vibrant, joyful, grateful, unconditional, self-actualizing best version of ourselves state. The true reason we came here. And so it gets a little bit more spiritual. This is a bit more what I would consider a pragmatic class, but the question was about baby faces. And I would, if you're going to do face reading, I would really recommend that you don't read anybody's face who is below the age of 18. And this is something that Lillian taught me. And it's because this is important because it goes to influence and the ramifications of it. When you read somebody's face, you start reading their faces. The moment you get one hit, in other words, you find one right thing, the level of suggestibility that that person has to you grows exponentially. They become increasingly more open, more suggestible, more expectant. Their focus goes up astronomically. And so anything you say can literally program and become a self-fulfilling prophecy for them. So when you're reading children, read them all you want, but never tell them what you see. Okay? Don't tell them what you see, right? Because you can literally influence them in ways that might not be the best for them. Right? I'm just putting that. This is a powerful tool, and I want you to understand the ramifications of it, so you can make better choices. Does that make sense? If you're kind of tracking where I'm coming from, go ahead and type. I get you. I'm in there in the chat. I'm going to try and get my YouTube channel back here. No, we never lost you. All right. Hold on a second. All right. So is this, you guys having fun with this? Is this good stuff? All right, very good. Okay, so let's look at this face again, just because it's easier. This way I don't have to jump back and forth. So from the eyebrow line to the hairline, data driven. From the eyebrow line to the bottom of the filtrum, right, where the nose meets the upper lip, pragmatic. From the base of from the top of the filtrum and the base of the nose to the chin line, emotional or gut driven. Okay, so when I look at somebody, this is going to tell me what order to do my presentation. So for example, let's flip the script on this face. Let's say that this zone here is the bigger zone. And then this one is number 2, and this one is number 3. I'm going to tell them about how much they're going to love what I'm about to show them. And then I'm going to tell them all the reasons, all the things that will allow them to do and how it will make their life easier. And then I'm going to give them all the data, testimonial, social proof that validates and supports that. That would be a 3, 2, 1 face, right? What if they're a 1, 2, 3 face? Well, I'm going to give the, look, this is what the studies are showing. This is what we've been able, this is what it will allow us to do. This is the proof. This is how it's going to change your life, and you're absolutely going to love it. Okay. What if this is the big zone? So in a diamond shaped face, a lot of times, those cheekbones in that middle zone will be bigger. Look, this is going to make your life so easy. It's going to let you do this and this and this, and you'll experience this, and this will get so much easier for you. And not only are you going to love it, here's why. right? So in this case, it was a 2, 3, 1. So the idea on a more advanced level for you guys is not just which zone is their dominant zone, which will get you going in the right direction, but remember that everybody has all three. So if you can customize or reorganize the sequence of what you're presenting to that person, they will make the decision faster and easier. Now, Nan is saying my face is equally divided. Congratulations. That means you have a tendency towards indecision. Yes, really, because what happens is the head battles with the heart, right? So here's the hack, and this comes from NLP and NLP Ultra. When you want them to make a decision, say, have you ever made a decision like this before? And they say yes. I'm curious, how did you go about making that decision? And listen to the words they use. If they talk about, well, I was reading a report and I saw all the things that it would do for me, and I felt like it was the right decision, right? Or they say, you know, I having this problem, was really bugging me, and I knew I needed to get this fixed because I wasn't loving life. And I started looking for ways to solve my problem. And I found XYZ thing, and I studied it, and I did the research, and I realized it would handle this, this, and this. And so I did it. So what you can start to do is you can check the words when they describe a past experience with the zones of the face and structure your presentation that way. Now, I could do that as a standalone, or if I'm face reading and I'm just not sure what those zone makeup might be, the words tend to supersede everything when we do this. Okay. Is this helpful? Is this something you can use? Yes or yes? 100%. Right on. Okay. So I do apologize. Like I said, I do apologize for the little tech snafu. So we're a little bit behind. Is it okay if maybe we go a little bit longer than what we would plan tonight? Is that okay? Okay, cool. So what if it were possible to look at somebody's face and diagnose, and I'm going to use that word because I'm a doctor and I can, diagnose their emotional health? What if we could look at somebody and profile not only their personality and temperament, but what kinds of emotions they've been stuffing and repressing that are making them sick or unhappy? Would that be a useful tool? Yes or yes? Okay. You know what? For people who are like in Europe and need to jump off or whatever, Mia, why don't you go ahead and give them the special package we have for people who stay to the end of the webinar, just because we don't want them to miss out. All right. So what we're going to do next is I want to talk about something that is kind of in alignment with decision strategies, right? But is also in alignment with why you are here today. This is called the emotional bonding checklist. This is something that is a very powerful way of understanding what emotionally drives another human being. I use, Nan says I need help with my discernment. Oh, you'll definitely get that, Nan, for sure. How many of you here, when you signed on to the webinar, had something very specific that you wanted to be able to do as a byproduct from tonight's webinar? Type in the chat what you wanted to take from that. Certification info. Okay. I want to read my clients. Excellent. Don't be bashful. This is a very important piece of tonight's webinar. How to clear lines. Okay. You know what, Eddie, or Edie, I will, in fact, how to clear lines. I will actually save that for part 3 of tonight's webinar, which is coming up after part 2 of tonight's webinar. Don't want to be taken advantage of anymore. Okay. Come on, I know there's more of you in the chat. Show me. Show me what you're working with. Read my clients better, help them faster. Okay. I know, Terry, you're pretty dangerous already. Improve communications and sales. Okay, very good. All right. So when you think about that outcome, imagine, stop for a moment and think about having that and what it's doing for you. And then ask yourself, what's important about that? What's important about that? If you could read your clients and help have decided if a person will make a good client, oh, Kurt, we have a process for you you're going to love. Kathy Simpson, looking to hear the truth. Okay, so you're more interested in being able to discern truth from lies. I'll put that in part 3 of tonight's webinar too. Okay, it's going to take a little bit more discernment if you're going to do it from a face reading perspective. And it says, I feel more empowered. Right on. Perfect. All right. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about emotions in the face. I want to start that process. I'll go in for the first, I'll teach you the first 5 or 6 traits. And then if it's okay for you, I made you a promise at the beginning of the webinar, and I want to stay as close to the time as I promised, even though I know we're going to go over. What I'd like to do is I'd like to start showing you how to map out the emotions on the face so you can start using that. Then what I'd like you to do is, I'd like to take a little bit of time and show you a program we've put together that not only includes everything that we're talking about, but takes you even further down the face reading and human being profiling rabbit hole. Would that be okay? Is it okay to do that? Type it in the chat. Sanjeev says yes. Sandra says yes. Nan says yes. Terry's yes. How about our YouTube fam? You guys good? If I'm still awake, I would love it. Perfect. Well, I'll do my best to make it dynamic for you. Okay. So let's talk about the facial map really quick. And this is one of my favorite maps. One of the problems with systems a lot of times is that you look at something and everybody expects you to start at the at the foundations and the fundamentals, and then figure out how to make it useful. A lot of people who go to NLP training, especially classical NLP, I absolutely am in love with NLP or what NLP should be, but I've also been very vocal and very critical many times about the way classical NLP is taught. And that's why we created NLP Ultra, which is, as to steal a line from Richard, my hallucination about what NLP should be and how it should be used, how we should be using it to make it more user-friendly. But one of the problems with classical NLP is there's a massive amount of data, and nobody really tells you, if you think of NLP like a buffet, but nothing's labeled. So you don't know what's a dessert, what's an entree, what's an appetizer, what's a garnish, what's nutritious, what's not. You kind of have to figure it out. And a lot of times when people go through a classical NLP training, they come out with all this amazing information that they can't actually use. And that's a shame. And so they feel like they're the failure. Actually what happened is the system failed them, in my opinion. And so when I started looking at face reading, it was a lot of it in a lot of ways was you had to have a real strong background in Chinese medicine. You had to understand energetics, 5-element theory. And I was like, this is not user-friendly to the average person. And the question for me became, how do I change that? What is immediately useful? So the maps that I'm sharing with you right now became the foundation for why I consider to be modern face reading, which you don't need to know anything about Chinese medicine. You don't need to know anything about energetics, although we're going to teach you energetics. You just need to know what to look for and what it means. So this was probably the single most useful map that I came across in all the many maps that Lillian shared with us. And this is the emotional map of the face. So the first thing, remember I talked about at the beginning of our webinar, is that you can divide the face, depending on what kind of information you're looking for, you can divide the face in all kinds of different ways, right? You can go bottom half versus top half. You can go into thirds. You can go right side versus left side. And each of those will give you different information. When you read the emotional map of the face, it's most useful to think of it like a clock face, where 12 o'clock is here, 6 o'clock is here, and we just go around. Okay. Now, one of the things we're looking for when we look at the face is we're looking for symmetry. Symmetry or asymmetry. If markings on one side of the face are heavier, they are more dominant. If the markings are lighter, they are less dominant. So, for example, if I'm looking at person's sadness lines here, which is one of the first 5 we're going to talk about, and I see that the lines on this side of the face are deeper than the lines on this side of the face, then I know that in this person's public persona, because this is, oh, we just locked up again. My apologies, folks. Moss? Moss? Hold on a second, folks. I'm switching computers yet again. Yes, it happened again, and you were nowhere around.
You're still broadcasting.
Yes, I'm aware. Let's see here. Can you guys hear me? I can't tell if
I can hear you.
okay. Let me see here. Yeah. I'm gonna take this upstairs and finish on the. We may have to do a replay of this webinar, guys, just so you guys can not have a broken up version. I do apologize for this. This is unusual. Okay. Why is my camera not working?
So I'm going to wire this one into that so that you have your.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, guys. Yeah, hold on a second, guys. Can't get the camera to work.
Right here?
Yes.
Here, give me a second. Sharing. There we go. Spotlight. There you go.
All right. Sorry about that again, folks. I'm just gonna finish the webinar on this computer and hope that well, the problem is I can't go through the offer because of PowerPoint being on the other computer. But anyway, all right. So let me see what's going on here. You guys are troopers for hanging out for bearing with us on this. Yeah.
You have your keyboard and mouse. You can plug this in. You can use them from like normal.
There's some. Transfer the PowerPoint. That's it.
Yep. I just need you to put that one over here.
Dated today. Cool. So let me change cameras. And here we go again, folks. All right. So let's see here. Virginia says, I wear a headscarf that covers my hairline, ears, parts of my cheek and jawline and neck. Would that make it hard for a professional face reader to accurately assess me? Yes. Primarily because most of your features are covered. I could still profile. I could profile your eyebrow bone, your eyebrows. I could profile the inner and outer canthae of your eyes. I could look at the size, shape, and depth of your eye sockets. I could look at the depth and the energy or the light that emits from your temples, and I could still give you a basic profile based on that information. That was what was cool during COVID when everybody was masking up. The way we reorganized the face reading system. First part of face reading part 1 is from the nose up. Face reading part 2 is from the nose down, which we released after COVID. So it was easy for people who were wearing them. We could still profile people who this is as much as we could see. So really, really easy. So whenever we're doing face reading, and the important thing to remember is that you use what's available, right? And like I said, there's so much data in the face reading systems that we had to reorganize it, we had to simplify it so people could enter into it in a way that was practical for them. Okay. Let me go back to my facial map, my emotional map of the face. Here. Make sure it's got the right date on it.
Yeah, so this one. Just click on finish.
That's not it. Now I just got to find my PowerPoint.
Do I just
No, it's fine.
okay?
All right. Pardon, don't mind me, guys. I'm just trying to find my emotional map, which is somehow missing from my face reading from this OneNote. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we'll try this again. All right, can you guys see that? Let me go ahead and can you guys see the facial map? Put that in the chat if you can see it. Go. Okay, good. All right, so the first emotion that we're going to look at is called skepticism, or the trait we're going to look at is called skepticism. Skepticism can be seen as a line just above the eye that starts at about the center of the eyebrow and tracks towards the outer surface of the eye. Now, one of the things that people often misunderstand when they look at this map is they think that because a trait only shows up on one side, that's the only place it can be. That's not the case. You can have skepticism lines on one side or both. Okay, so the vast majority of these traits are bilateral. In other words, they can have it on the right side, they can have it on the left side, and they usually do. But what you'll notice a lot is that one side will be deeper or stronger many times than the other. So when someone is showing us the right side of their face, this is their public face. In other words, this is who they want you to think they are. When someone is marking on the left side of their face, this is their private persona. This is who they truly are when nobody's looking, when they're amongst their closest, deepest, most intimate friends, right? These are the things they don't want anybody really to know. So if you see someone who's marking more here on their private side than on their public side, that means there's a lot more emotional stuff happening in that aspect of their life. Right now, when you come to face reading in April, we'll go way deep into this side of things, but I just wanted to give you a really quick primer on that. So the first trait we're going to look for is skepticism. Now, when you see a trait in somebody, the first thing I want you to understand is that you don't want to walk up to somebody and say, oh, that line on your face means you're a skeptical motherfucker. Probably not the best approach, right? So Terry is asking, is private persona on their left side? Yeah, think of it like if they were raising their right hand side, their right hand side is their public face. They're raising their left hand, and I know my image is reversed. They're raising their left hand side, their left hand side is their private face, right? I reversed it here on the screen so you could see it how it would actually look. I guess if that makes any kind of sense. Okay. So if you have any doubt, just have them raise their right hand and you'll know exactly what you're working with. Okay. Okay. So when we look at, so one of the things we want to be very, very clear on is that not just being able to identify the trait, we also want to be able to discuss the trait without pissing them off or making somebody feel violated or self-conscious or attacked. So one of the things Lillian loved to do when she would profile or read somebody's face is she would say, oh, you have a beautiful brow bone, it's very strong. And I noticed that there's this line right about the center of your eyebrow that kind of tracks this way. And in most people, that indicates someone who's a little bit more on the skeptical side. They tend to not take anything at face value. They don't believe anything really necessarily without proof or until they see it. They can be open-minded, but they want to see the evidence. Would that describe you? Right? And 99.99% of the time they'd say yes, right? As opposed to somebody who's a little bit more from the bludgeon them over the head with reality screw and say, ah, you're a skeptical motherfucker, aren't you? Right? Even if it's true, the invasive, reactant, judgy nature of that expression is going to trigger reactance in the person. So we want to create an energy and a context or a feeling of safety and an ability to be open and vulnerable so the person will actually be truthful with you. Now, if you've gotten a deep level of rapport and somebody's behavior changes like that, where they suddenly become aloof and defensive, or the eyes shrink or get analytical, and we'll talk about getting analytical in a moment, that that could be one of the first indications that this person is either very uncomfortable, doesn't want to tell you the information, or is getting ready to lie, right? Well, they've been there. Oh, Natalie says, been there, done that, forgot about softeners and building rapport. Yeah, rapport is big, right? Especially with this. This has such an unprecedented ability to give you the to allow you to exert influence on people. I can't even begin to describe what it can do when used effectively. But again, the ability to help people is where it starts. Okay, so let's go back to our map. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. So the next characteristic I want us to look at, and again, it's at the 1 o'clock position on the facial map. This is joy. Joy can be seen by little tiny crow's feet that start at the outer edge of the eye. We call that the outer canthus. And they just track up the side of the face towards the temple. And they usually end right at or around the edge of the eyebrow. Now, here's something I'm going to jump to the other side of the face because this is something I want you to be a little bit more aware of when you're looking at potentially problematic personalities. This is healthy. This is someone who's experienced a fair amount of joy and happiness in their life, a certain level of exuberance, for lack of a better word. But if you go directly across, here's an example of what we would call pathological joy. And you'll notice that the line starts at the outer edge of the canthus, and then it keeps going. See how it tracks up past the edge of the eyebrow? When we see this marking on somebody, we want to start treading carefully. And here's what I mean, because the technical term for this is mania or hyperactivity. This is what we call excessive. Hold on a second, let me type that in there. Maybe I'll have to type it over here. Excessive or pathological joy. What does that mean? Well, manic depressive, bipolar. These people are sometimes up at 3 o'clock in the morning texting. They tend to be a little bit more on the volatile side. They have a tendency towards tremendously long bouts of going without sleep or huge bouts of creativity followed by crashing and burning. These people are largely either always on until they burn out, or they're always on and then they crash, and they're always on and then they crash. So these people can be very, very chaotic. So you got to be very careful. So your borderline personality disorders, your schizoid personalities, this is something that if you see this marking, it doesn't mean they're crazy. It does mean, though, that they are prone to bouts of mania of some kind. Sometimes that's megalomania. Sometimes it could be, you could think of it like an OCD, but it's more like an ADD type of an energy. But these people often are very, very creative during those manic phases. They can also be hypersexual. So those are the first two on our training today. Any questions on that? Let me look at my chats. Any questions? So Natalie's asking, how do you distinguish between age and extra line info? Well, that's a really great question, and it's really interesting because what Lillian taught me was that most aging is a result of emotional toxicity. And as you start to unpack and attack and dissolve the emotional toxicity, a lot of these lines will start to go away. They'll start to look younger and younger and younger. Yes, an extra line. So the line will start, it'll start at the outer canthi and it'll go past the eyebrow. right? I could show you pictures of a certain political candidate that has these markings, but I don't want to provoke anybody. What other indications are there to show emotional instability? There's something we call Shen disturbances, and there's all kinds of, which is another aspect of the Chinese medicine, but Shen refers to the heart and the mind. So anytime there's a disharmony between the heart and the mind, you will see it in the eyes and you will see it in the energy that's coming beneath the skin. Would the mania trait show up in sociopaths? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But behaviorally, you will start to see a little bit more similar behaviors. Sociopaths tend to be sensation-seeking personalities. In other words, they tend to have low impulse control, and they're always looking for a rush. So in that respect, they can behave very, very similar to somebody with a manic or a mania type of trait. The problem with sociopaths is that they don't feel emotions exactly the same way that the average human being does. And so they may not mark exactly the same way. You would look for sociopathy a little bit differently in face reading than you would through the emotion. You could do it technically through the emotional map, but the problem is that a lot of their emotions don't match up. So when you're looking for psychopathy or sociopathy, what you're actually looking for is the eyes. People with what we call Shen. And again, we can talk about that in part 3 of the webinar, but I promised you I'll go through at least 4 or 5 traits before we talked about the certification that's coming up and other things that you can do. Okay. So let me just make sure that I've got, like I said, I switched computers, so I'm really just kind of running around trying to make sure that I have access to all of my information. All right. And for you YouTubers out there who kind of got cut off when I switched computers, I apologize. One second. I'm just trying to find my PowerPoint. All right. Let's go back to the facial map. Yes. Share my screen. Okay, so the next trait that we're going to look at is called sadness, obviously. And so we look at sadness.
You're sharing the whole screen. It's just the
I'm not showing.
Yeah. You're sharing the whole screen, which is just the one. Also give you the option.
So you guys can see the screen up there, right? All right.
Send your mouse for a second. I'll get this up for you.
So we look at sadness. We're looking at a line that curves from the outer canthi and going down. Sadness comes in 3 varieties. You need to see how these lines come down, and they should be either short, middle, or long. When you see these lines, what you're seeing is the depth, the intensity, but also the age of the grief, the sadness, or sorrow. So someone who's had a lot of sadness in their life, you'll see little short lines. Stuff they're still working on. If there's stuff that they're in denial about, if there's stuff that they're repressing, you'll see that line start to grow longer and to begin to creep down through the cheekbone. If the grief is very, very old, denied, and repressed, you will see that line begin to travel all the way down almost to the jaw. Okay, so what you're seeing here are degrees and age of emotion. Now, what's important about this for you guys, especially if you see clients for health issues, that energy runs through an area of the face connected to the lung. And so many times when somebody has sadness or sorrow or grief, they will present to the medical community as someone with asthma allergies, COPD, emphysema, those kinds of illnesses. If you have a client, for those of you who are therapists, who are not dealing with medical issues, if you have a client that presents at your clinic and you see these lines, good chance when you start going through your therapy, they're going to start exhibiting lung symptoms. You see, or they'll start to choke or cough or wheeze. Why? Because that energy gravitates to the lung, and as you start to process it, they'll start generating lung symptoms. They're not abreacting. In other words, you're not doing anything bad when you see that or you hear that happening. What's actually happening is a purging of the detoxified emotion in your system. So when you see it on the face and you unpack it at this level, lung symptoms could emerge. Don't freak out. Flip it around. If you're a medical person dealing with the lung issues, don't be surprised if they start crying. If their breathing sequence changes, because as you start to work on the physiological side of it, it will provoke the emotions to the body wants to purge that, right? And if you're someone whose scope of practice doesn't include the psycho-emotional, then you should probably refer them to somebody who can help them process the emotion connected to that. Conversely, if you're someone whose scope of practice doesn't include the medical side, you might want to consider referring them to someone who can help them cleanse those tissues. You can do it by dealing with the emotional side. I found the emotional side of things tends to be the most rapid way to fix a problem. The most direct way to the problem is usually through the emotional and spiritual bodies. Okay, but some of us don't have that training, and so if you don't, you got to refer out. Okay, if you have family members who have a lot of chronic lung issues, chances are you're looking at some form of generational trauma. Okay, so it becomes you'll start to see how all of these things start to dovetail a little bit. Okay, so that's the next three energies that I wanted to talk about, which is grief, or sadness, sorrow, and grief. There's one more. There's one more aspect of sadness, grief, and sorrow that I want to talk about, and we call that lost loves. So the final line. I know I said I was going to talk about 5, but I'm actually going to talk about 6. And that can be seen here. You look at somebody's face, and you see a line that comes from the inner canthi, and it starts to track down through this area. I've seen this trait emerge 2 different ways. I've seen it come directly from the inner corner of the eye and track down the face. I've also seen it start at the inner canthus of the eye, track across, and then come down. Both of those are indications of loss of something important, loss of a love. Now, let me explain kind of what, did you guys, was I not sharing my screen for that? Oops. Okay, so, okay, can you see me now? Okay, good. So the line I was just talking about starts here at the inner canthi, and instead of going this way, it tracks almost like a waterfall down this way. Now I've seen this line, Lillian called these lost love lines. She also called them personal lost lines. Now I need to distinguish this particular line from these. When you see this line, and I've seen it manifest in 2 ways. I've seen it manifest just like you see here, but I've also seen it manifest in a line that tracks across and then down. To me, they mean the same thing. It just means that there's more, it's more immediate if it comes across. There's more grieving going on. So when you see this kind of a line, what actually happened in this person's life was they experienced the loss of something that was a part of their golden path. It was part of their identity, part of their reason for coming into this world. So the example that I often use is that, say for example, when you were young, you went to on a pony ride one day, and the moment you laid eyes on that horse, you fell in love. It was like there was a part of you that just opened up, grabbed a hold of that experience, and from then on, all you did was think, eat, drink, sleep about horses. You had a horse, you had pictures of horses, everything was about riding and becoming a master equestrianist or whatever, right? And then years later, for some reason, could be any reason, you have an accident which you can no longer ride horses. You develop a terrible allergy that horses you can no longer be around horses, which would be weird in itself. Or perhaps, as is sometimes the case, the family moves away, you have to give up the horses, or you meet somebody that you fall in love with, that you decide is going to be a life partner or something, and for some reason, they want you to give up, or they pull you away from the horses. Any of those could cause this. But what happens is when you give up or you lose access to that activity, not necessarily a person, but an activity or a pastime or something that brings you immense joy, that opens up your heart, you will mark from here and it will start to do this. And part of your mission, and those of you who are therapists, this is something you want to start. If you see this line, this person lost something that is part of who they are, and they need to get it back. So part of your job will helping them to process that loss and finding a way to reclaim or recover their ability to participate or be with that thing. Okay, we call that a lost love. I see it a lot, but I've seen it manifest two ways. I've seen it manifest in the line that comes straight down or the line that cuts across and then comes down. But one of the things they all have in common, whether it's sadness or sorrow or grief or lost love, they all cut through the lung area of the face, right? This area right in here, right? And so when you see that, don't be surprised if they've got lung issues and vice versa. It's a feedback loop, okay? Questions on those? It would now be a good time to ask those questions. All right, so then with your permission, I asked before if I could share some programs we've got coming up for you. I'd like to go ahead and take a moment or a few moments and go through that if I could. And then when we're done with that, we're going to circle back to the other side of the webinar, part 3. We'll pick up with the emotional map. So M. Cornelis is asking, those lines of lost love or so, do they have impact on their character? They can, for certain. If the person experiences the loss, then there are a bunch of different directions that their character could go. And we'll remind me again about, we ask that question when we get to the lines of disappointment, bitterness, and over-nurturing on the face, because they can absolutely trigger other lines in the face, depending on which direction a person's character expresses itself. So without further ado, with your permission, if I have it, I would very much like to share with you the program we put together and give you guys an opportunity to actually become face readers and learn how to profile people and do all kinds of cool stuff. Would that be cool? Excellent. All right. So without further ado, let's focus on the face reading for fun and profit home study course. Now, can you guys see the PowerPoint that says face reading for fun and profit home study course? I need to make sure because this is a little wonky. All right. So what's this really about? Well, the face reading for fun and profit, how to read anyone instantly home study course is really all about helping you take your life to the next level. It's about understanding yourself better It's about being able to read people instantly in any context, in any situation, at whatever level that you decide to profile them, whether it's a physical health level, a lifestyle and constitution level, an emotional level, a personality and temperament level, and so that you can begin to predict behavior and recognize patterns so that you can help more people. And as a byproduct of this, you're going to find yourself becoming absolutely more confident in all of your interactions. You'll be more confident in dealing with people on a day-to-day basis because you'll be able to look at them and know in a very, very powerful, very, very clear way who you're dealing with and what they're most likely to do in a given situation. And that allows us to make better decisions, which can lead to more powerful and effective track on becoming the best you. Ultimately, we're looking for ways to win the game of life. And in more ways than it is a game. Ultimately, as a byproduct of this, you're going to become more charming, charismatic, and irresistible, able to get your outcome any way, anytime, anywhere, for any reason, because you'll understand most people better than they understand themselves. And that's a tremendous, tremendous power to have. Now, everything that we're going to talk about is good until tonight at 11:59 p.m., March 11th, 2024. And so we're going to start you off with our Secrets of Face Reading home study course. It's a $1,997 value. And this is a program that, again, we prefer you do it live, but we realize that some people traveling is difficult. And before I go any further, can people see? Is that better? Sorry. No problem. My bad. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to teach you in a very scientific, very simple, easy to follow and understand way how to look at a face and profile it from hairline to chin line so that you can develop a personality profile of another human being in as little as 90 seconds. We'll actually drill you on this and then show you by testing you during the actual training that it's possible to do this. People have tested me all the time. We'd go out to dinner and one of the people at dinner would say, hey, see that waiter? Profile his face when he comes over. And I would come over and I would just from hairline to chin line and boom, and I'd be dead on every time, right? Powerful, powerful stuff. Lots of fun at parties, makes people hyper responsive and hyper attracted to you, which is another superpower to have. You're going to have the ability to assess personality and temperament very, very quickly. You'll be able to understand just thinking and decision-making styles, how to unlock and release and process their emotional traumas. And if you're not trained to release it, you'll at least know who to refer to so that they can get that stuff handled. You'll begin to understand people's personal management style so that when you are going to work as part of a team or put a team together, or you're coming and you have a new boss, you can look at their face and go, okay, this person is not someone that, this person is going to be like a micromanager. This person is going to be a hands-off. This person is not going to be much of a team player. This one will be a team player as long as they get to lead the team. This person wants to work alone. All these different things you'll start to be able to put together very, very quickly. You'll be able to look at somebody's face and determine in a very, very simple way how sexually and romantically compatible they are with you. If you're doing this with clients, you can look at a couple coming in, male or female, gender doesn't really matter, and know if these people are going to be compatible based on their facial features. It's really, really cool, and it's really, really consistent. In fact, if you get Lillian's book, she shows you right up front the morphing process that happens when two people are married and partners for a very, very long period of time. It's amazing how predictable these changes are and what you can predict from it. We'll teach you how to use this to connect with people far more powerfully. I have students that took face reading from me that now have over 250,000 TikTok viewers. In fact, I have at least 3 or 4 of them that are in the 200,000 plus range just doing face reading on TikTok. They learned it from me, right? Maybe I should take a hint from them. But anyway, because I never got my cut, but that's all right. If you'd like to be able to have a tool for understanding yourself on a day-to-day basis better and better and better, and watching your own face change as you become a better and better version of yourself, that's what this is going to do for you, right? Predicting human behavior, being able to anticipate patterns, and knowing what to do next is one of the superpowers that being a face reader will give you. And as I told you before, when people know you're a face reader, without this face reading skill, you will become the most fascinating person in the room. And if you're someone who's looking to be able to protect yourself
from the narcissists and the sociopaths of the world, this is probably one of the most important tools that you can have, because this will tell you who they are on a long-term basis, not a short-term episodic basis. And I think that's a really important distinction to make. So the total value on this is $1,997. We're also going to include, if you grab your course today, we're going to include these special bonuses to help you flesh out and round out your training that you can do from home. First and foremost, you heard me mention this at the beginning of the webinar. This is our Defense Against the Dark Arts, Speed Profiling, Influence, and Counter Manipulation Home Study course. This is literally ranked the #1 NLP course in the world. It's a $1,997 value. And in this course, you're going to get some amazing stuff. You're going to get 16 videos that teach you, first and foremost, the Universal Persuasion Protocol, a simple step-by-step formula that can allow you to control your state, get rapport, use your language skills, manage the states of whoever you want, link to their emotions, and have them pretty much doing whatever you want them to do in the shortest amount of time possible. From there, you're going to learn how to profile. We're going to start you with how to think like a master influencer. How do people who are experts at persuasion, positively or negatively, how do they think? What's their thought process? What are the thinking strategies that they use? What belief systems do they have in place that allow them to be effective? This particular module is a $297 value. It's where you start, because you got to think like an influencer and a profiler if you want to use these skills. Thinking like an average everyday person who's responding to their emotional drivers will get you manipulated. Thinking like a master influencer will allow you to take control of those emotions and use them as the tools they are to make your life better and to keep yourself safe. And along those lines, we're going to teach you step by step how to control your own psycho-emotional state so no one else can do it against your will ever again. Remember, anything outside of your awareness is outside of your control. And if you don't understand how emotions are made, how they're managed in the body through your physiology and your willpower, you will be at the mercy of whoever can get your attention. So the idea behind this is to teach you how to go into and out of any emotional state on demand, at will, in any order and sequence. And the byproduct of that training is that no one will be able to push your buttons or take you by surprise for more than a second ever again. You will gain so much control over your own mind and body that nobody will be able to manipulate you to the same degree ever again. You don't have to take my word for it. Just get the course, do the training, and you'll be amazed at what you can do with that. But what if you could also take that emotional muscle that you're building and use it to create such intense rapport with people that you can connect with anyone, anytime, anywhere before you even talk to them? Before they even make eye contact with you, their neurology can actually be in a deep state of rapport with you. And what if, think about this, what if once that rapport connection is made, by shifting your own emotional state, you could cause that person's body to experience those feelings, and as a byproduct of shifting those feelings, their consciousness and their perceptual filters change, so they automatically become predisposed to liking, trusting, and following your lead. That's what power rapport skills are all about. It's not just about getting a frequency that allows you to connect with a person. It's about generating an emotional amplitude and a level of information transfer between your system and somebody else's that allows you to understand in a very powerful way what's going on in that human being's mind and body, so that you can manage their patterns, or you can prime them to behave and think a certain way before you've even made eye contact or talked to them. That's a $297 value, but I think you can see what's possible with that training. Now, what if we could teach you a few simple magic spells that would allow you to instantly make anything you want seem to cause anything you want in the minds of your listener, your subject, your customer, your client? What if we could teach you another magic spell that would allow you to make anything you want mean anything you want in the minds of your subject, even if those things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. What if we could teach you a simple language pattern that would allow you to direct somebody's focus of attention and cause things to happen automatically in their unconscious mind without them even consciously realizing it's happening? What if you could take a simple language pattern and use it to make the movies people make in their mind anything you want exactly the way you want without the possibility of failure? Okay? That's what we teach you next. The irresistible hypnotic language patterns, each one of those allows you to do one or more of those things that I've just talked about. These are the patterns that are truly the most powerful language patterns that exist. Why is that so? It's because they're directly connected to the filters in your brain that control your perception of reality and the structure of your thoughts. That's why when we listen to people speaking, we can tell as a neurolinguistic programmer how they're building their thoughts, because there's a one-to-one correlation. And when we speak to people in these patterns, their brains behave in very predictable ways. Now, this is extraordinarily powerful, and it's something you need to know because there's people and agencies out there with a vested interest in using these patterns on you. So not only will you become irresistibly charismatic and influential, you will also be able to detect when other people are using these things on you. We call it seeing and hearing the matrix. What if you had the ability to actually tap into a person's emotional state and take them from one state to another, to another, to another automatically and cause them to behave in exactly the way you want? We'll teach you how to hack somebody's internal behavior code. And it's similar to, the process is kind of similar to how we look at someone's decision strategy, only we're using different cortexes of the brain rather than, and language, rather than looking at a face, okay? What if we could teach you how to so powerfully bond a person's emotions to what you offer that the idea of not doing it physically caused them pain? And you could do this in a completely ethical and honest way. How would your life change if you had these abilities? Because that's just where we're going to start with Defense Against the Dark Arts. And I think as you're listening to what I'm saying and you're understanding this in your head, why this particular program was named the #1 NLP course in the world, because of what it allows you to do in a very easy, simple, systematic, step-by-step way. So, but we're not done yet. There's more to this program. We're going to teach you also speed profiling secrets. We're going to teach you the master keys for how to read anyone's behavior instantly. Now, face reading is all about long-term use of the facial muscles, but there's another side to that called micro-expressions. We're going to teach you about micro-expressions. These are tiny facial changes that happen in the moment when somebody's lying, when somebody's being defensive or trying to deflect and all these other things. It'll teach you how to spot the emotions they're repressing so that you can make decisions as to what to do next. We call that active profiling. Face reading is passive profiling. It's all about personality and temperament. Micro-expressions are active profiling. It's all about what are the emotions a person is trying to manage and conceal in the moment. And that includes, are they going to lie to you? Or are they more likely to lie to you? And that's where fundamentals of lie detection comes in. We'll talk about baselines and clustering and data points and the 15 most common indicators that someone may be lying to you. We'll teach you about what we call body language heuristics, rules of thumb that military profilers use when they're searching for terrorists that let them know if somebody's most likely not the good guy they're pretending to be. We're going to teach, it's all included as part of this training. Then we're going to take it even further and teach you what we call the flag system. This is how to spot and profile narcissists, sociopaths, Machiavellians, dark triads, and other forms of persuasion a-holes, right? These are the people who are going to, do bad things to your kids, people who are going to try to draw your daughter into some form of human trafficking, someone who's going to try and swindle you out of your retirement. There are ways that we can begin to spot behavioral tells, and then there's a system we apply to check up on these people. It's called FLAGS. It's based on the work of Dr. Wendy Patrick, and FLAG stands for Focus Lifestyle Association Groups. And then we'll teach you how to actually follow up on those behavioral red flags and the things to watch out for that would cause you to actually not act on the red flags that you're spotting. Okay. Then I'm going to teach you a deep dive into what we call predatory psychology. There is a specific mindset and a certain set of defense mechanisms and reframe patterns that character disturbed and predatory individuals, sociopaths, dark triads, Machiavellians, grandiose narcissists, these types of people use to consistently evade the consequences of their actions and shift the blame onto other people. There's at least 21 different red flags that can come up during a conversation that will give you a hint that the person in front of you is not the good guy or girl they're pretending to be. Okay, very, very powerful stuff. And you'll get to actually role play some of these things so you can actually begin to understand what both sides of that equation feel like, so you have a better way of defending yourself against it. Finally, we're going to teach you some of those powerful hypnotic reframing techniques for winning arguments and keeping yourself from being gaslighted. This part here goes hand in hand with the predatory psychology and the 21 conversational red flags of narcissists and sociopaths, because many of these conversational red flags and defense mechanisms are reframe patterns in and of themselves. And so if you understand how reframing works, the thought process that goes into it, you can counter the counter. So every time you call somebody on something and they try to weasel their way out of it, you'll have at least 14 different ways to turn the tables on that bad guy or bad girl. Okay? We'll teach you, I think I just mentioned micro expressions and subtle cues. And plus, there are many more other bonus chapters on psychological tactics and influence that we are included in the manual. So we include the actual killer influence manual in this as well. Total value in this is $1,997. If you combine that with the face reading secrets level 1, which is the I just talked about, total combined value is $3,994. Next, we're going to show you, this is again, for those of you who are therapists, for those of you who want to use face reading as an income stream or as a way to leverage into your therapeutic practice, we're going to include the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course. This is one of the most powerful hypnosis programs ever created. It will take you from zero to hypnotic hero in the shortest amount of time possible. If you follow the training protocol in this program, you will gain the ability within less than 5 days to hypnotize anyone, anytime, anywhere, for any reason, under any circumstance. There are literally 2 or 3 people on this webinar right now who went through this training back in 2018, 2019, that did full-blown hypnosis interventions on people, on subjects in the lobby of a hotel, undergoing renovation, next to a curtain behind which was a jackhammer in full operation. In other words, that jackhammer was pounding away and they were doing full-blown trance on people with 0 problems. Right? You'll learn instant and rapid inductions, how to hypnotize people anytime, anywhere, under any reason, how to remove blocks and limiting beliefs that people didn't even know they had, how to remove blocks that go away and come back, how to resolve secondary gain and other reasons that people have for not letting go of problems. We're going to teach you how to clear up those issues that just don't seem to go away. We're going to show you how to install the traits, qualities, and characteristics of positive driver states, we call it, which is, playfulness, curiosity, relentlessness. These are things that will cause you to move forward, but in a positive, joyful way, instead of going around in the drone zone or being depressed or angry all the time. We'll give you a different set of states and how to build states that you can move through the world in as a matter of choice rather than by default programming. Then we're going to teach you how to remove that crappy voice inside your head so that instead of tearing you down and giving you all the reasons why you shouldn't try something or do something, it's going to be your personal cheerleader, coach, mentor, and protector, giving you all the reasons why you can succeed and why you should go for it. Okay, this is one of the most powerful interventions that I have ever witnessed in room after room after room of clients. I teach this for people to use on other people, but you have to go through the experience. And every time we do this with people, there isn't a dry eye in the room because the change is so deep, so profound. And we're going to, again, this is part of your training. You'll be able to do this and experience it for yourself. Finally, we're going to teach you to install the traits, qualities, and characteristics of people you want to be more like, people whose skill sets you admire, people who have an ability or an understanding of something that, or a personality attribute that you think would improve your life. We're going to show you how to install those in yourself first, and then into the minds and bodies of your clients so that they can have the results they want and become the best version of themselves, and so much more. One of which would be the simple 30-minute intake process and screening process that we use that has a 9.9% conversion rate, and guarantees that you will only work with clients who are not going to waste your time. Okay, and remember that you're a healer, you're a therapist, you're a coach, you're a mentor, and so there has to be value on both sides of that equation. You have no business taking on a client that has a low probability of success with your program any more than you want to work with a client who is going to waste your valuable time and energy when you could be seeing clients that are going to actually do what you want them to do and be more compliant. This is a real big factor, because when I talk to my students who are out being paid to do therapy and stuff like that, and they come to me with a problem client, the first thing I ask them is, did you do your intake the way I taught you? And the first words out of my mouth is, no, I didn't. I needed the money, or I thought I thought they were going to be a good subject, and I just took them. And now, because here's the thing, if you're not obligated to take any client ever, but if you accept somebody as a client, then in my world, you are 100% obligated to do whatever it takes to help that client get the outcome until you've exhausted all your resources. So that decision about whether to take a client or not needs to be based on how compliant they are to the instructions that you're giving them. Because none of the good you have to offer happens until the client does what you say. And there is a certain percentage of the population that are happy with their stuff because they've identified with it and they just want to prove they can't be helped. You need to identify with those people from the ones who are really ready to change, so that you can, both of you, get what you want from that relationship. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free because we want you to have all the tools to handle whatever comes up. Because when you start reading faces, people might start processing. And if they start processing, you should probably know what to do about that. And that's why we're including this in the program. It's a total combined value is $5,491, but we have more. We're also going to include another program. This one is not on face reading. This is on body language. We call this People Reading for Fun and Profit. It's a body language secrets program. And it's very similar in terms of what it's going to do for you. We're just going to do it now through body language rather than facial cues, traits, or attributes. We're going to teach you how to understand the body language of attraction. There are 5 distinct phases of attraction that people go through when they go from stranger to intimacy. Each of those has its own name. It's been well researched and documented. It's fairly cross-cultural. And if you understand these 5 phases, you can look at any couple anywhere and look at who's into who's not, how trusting and open are they. And you can work with that in business. You can work with that in networking. You can work with that in mediation and client work. But it will absolutely help you in your romantic life, because you'll be able to figure out, am I doing well with this person or not? Are they open to my next move or not? You know, and that takes a lot of heat off all of us because it helps us select better partners, right? We're going to talk about lie detection and body language and kinesic interview and interrogation skills so that you can zero in on the 15 most powerful. There's actually two sets of lie detection traits we're going to look at. One is called the Hansen 15, and the other is I call the use deception indicators. There's some overlap between the two systems. When you combine them, you get a very reliable a dictionary of body language cues that can indicate if somebody's lying to you or not. Very useful, very effective. I'll teach you through your body language how to project charm, charisma, and confidence on demand, how to project connection and trust and sincerity on demand as well. Ladies, you'll understand men better. Men, you'll understand women better. We'll teach you about the 7 stages of dress for success. In other words, when you start to take on a certain level, there are certain social status indicators that are connected to different types of dress. And when you understand those levels, you can now dress in a way that gives you the right amount of status for the environment that you're operating in. Okay, it's completely nonverbal. All right, we'll teach you how to eliminate behaviors that weaken your influence. There's certain things you should never do or minimize when you're in an interaction with another person or on a Zoom call and things like that. Little tiny things that on the surface you wouldn't think are any big deal, but actually take away from your authority, your influence, and the confidence that people have in you. We'll show you how to completely eliminate those behaviors. We'll teach you how to close more deals, get more dates, spot liars, and project the kind of aura that you want people to perceive about you. It's a really, really powerful way to round out your deep dive into human language profiling and behavior. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to include this in your package absolutely free. Total value on this is $6,988. So just to review, we're going to include in your package, when you click your link, it's appearing in the chat shortly, you're going to get the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course valued at $1,997. You're going to get the Speed Profiling Defense Against the Dark Arts training, #1 NLP training course in the world. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the People Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study course, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. Total value is $6,988 in super powerful stuff that's going to give you an absolute advantage in an ethical way as you move through the world. But because it's a webinar, and especially now because you guys stuck with me and you dealt with some pretty heinous tech issues, I got to be honest. Make sure you stay till the end, because I want to share something with you that's not on the slides. But today I want to do right by you guys. I want to give you the fast track to getting the certifications you want, getting the information you need so you can start making your life exactly what you want it to be. So I want you to have the best deal humanly possible. So we're not going to charge you $6,988. Heck, we're not even going to we're going to not even knock it down to half price, right? We're not even going to make it half of that. For those of you who are ready to start, for those of you who are ready to take your understanding of human beings, behavior, patterns, to the next level, if you're ready to add more zeros to your bottom line and help more people, starting with you, you can get everything I've just talked about for one low installment of just $997. All you need to do to grab yours right now is go to www.nlppower.com/FACE. Click that link, www.nlppower.com/FACE. That's FACE. Click the link, And for those of you who maybe need a little extra help, we can easily break that up for you into 3 installments of just $397 each. All you got to do is click your link right now. You'll be taken to a special page, and you just click the link, follow the instructions, and click buy now or whatever the prompt on the button is, and you will automatically be entered into our database. And as a byproduct of that, you'll get the 60-day money back guarantee. So try this material out, train it for 60 full days. If after the 60 days or within the 60 days, you're not convinced, you're not satisfied that this is some of the most powerful material you've ever experienced, if you're not on the fast track to understanding people better, being able to read and profile them instantly, if you're not using those skills to become more successful, manifest in the life of your dreams, if you're not finding yourself moving through the world, feeling more secure, confident, socially, romantically, financially powerful, I'll refund your money, right? If these tactics and these skill sets aren't giving you the return on the investment that by the way, I've absolutely under promoted what these things can do. But if within those 60 days, after giving it an honest attempt, and we've been helping you through the sticking points and whatever, if you're not convinced that it's not delivering the results that you want and expect from our programs, just pick up the phone, let Moss or me know, and we will completely refund. We'll refund your money, and you can even keep the programs you've downloaded. Okay, that's just our way of saying, hey, Thank you for trusting us. All we do ask is that, be ethical and honest about that. Don't be one of those hit and run people who buy everything and then 2 weeks later refund it because they downloaded all the shit. And, we have this really good refund policy. But here's the thing. I am so convinced, I truly believe that these skills are the difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of power, freedom, choice, love, connection, every good thing that you want more of in your life. These skills are the fast track to getting it. I'm really good at what I do, teaching this stuff, organizing this stuff, tech issues aside, but I need you. I need you to want to do this course. I need you to want to follow the instructions and obey the commands so that you can become the best version of yourself. So grab your course, click the links, test drive this material, commit to it, play with it, enjoy it, have fun with it for a full 60 days. If by the end of those 60 days, you're not convinced it's one of the best investments you ever made, pick up the phone and let us know. We'll refund you. Click your link right now, www.nlppower.com/face. Click your link, click the link, and we will move on. Now, for those of you who like more stuff, now who doesn't like more stuff? If you grab your course, not just before March 11th, 2024, which is today, but if you grab your course, if you click that link right now, before I log off the webinar, I've got 3 extra goodies for you. First and foremost, I'm going to give you a 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Practice Group and Archive. This is a 90-day all access pass to the most powerful online mentoring program there is. We've been around for 13 years. I've been running this program since October 10th, 2010, and we've videotaped every single session. And it's literally you logging in or showing up at my office, and I literally go around the room and I say, Jake, what do you want to learn? Moss, what do you want to learn? Jeff, what do you want to learn? Jason, what do you want to learn? Justin, what do you want to learn? Mary, what do you want? Kathy, what do you want? Holly, what do you want to learn? Mia, what do you want to learn? And I write it all up on the board, and then I step back, and I look at all the connecting threads. How do all these things line up? And then I create a lesson plan for the group right on the spot. And then for the next 4 to 6 hours, I drill you on those skills, either in person or through our Zoom channel, until you can do them in your sleep. Then I send you back out into the world to apply your new skills. You come back next month, and I do the same thing. What do you want to learn today? What do you want to focus on today? What problem do you want to solve today? We create a lesson plan, and we skill, and we drill. You are not going to get a certificate or a certification of any kind from your participation in the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Group. What you will get is the ability to use the skills you're investing so heavily and so joyfully in. You'll gain the hands-on training that you need, the real-world feedback, and the confidence and the support of a community of people who all want the same things you want, where you're not a freak, or you don't have to hide what you're doing because you don't think people will understand. It's one of the most powerful and most important aspects that is missing from many people's persuasion and profiling journey. Okay? When you raise your hand and choose to be above average, to be special, to be different, by definition, that means being average is no longer an option. And when you make that choice, you need a community, you need support, you need people like you who are cool, who like to do cool stuff. And that's what the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program is about. It's the glue that brings all of your trainings and all of the information together. And the best part is, perhaps the second best part maybe, is that we've archived every single session for the last 13 years between the NLP Power website, our Facebook archive, and our YouTube channel. As an all access pass member, you get unlimited access to the entire 13-year archive, stuff that's never been seen on YouTube, that's never seen the light of day in a product or service. And it's going to give you the ability to really functionalize your training. Okay. That being said, it's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you free. Total combined value, if you do the math, is $8,985. And the second fast action bonus we're going to share with you is the face reading level 2. Now, remember I said that face reading level 1 was all above the mask. Face reading level 2 is all the same good stuff below the mask. But you'll also, because each of the different characteristics have different correspondences and they relate to certain things, you'll be able to understand how much fear somebody's holding on to, how much, how they handle money, how bossy or less than bossy, or how nurturing they are.
Hey guys, Dr. David. As you can see, we had yet another tech snafu. This time, we lost power. You know, I think people are trying to. You know what? This is why I'm so easygoing, because you just gotta roll with the punches. You know, one of the things that people always wondered. This is a completely off-topic thing, but people always wondered why I can be so like laid back when shit goes wrong. It's because shit's been going wrong most of my life, right? When I started the meetup community, we would have tech snafus all the time, you know, and it always, you know, after a while you just roll with it, right? It's a human thing, right? Shit happens, right? So I'm talking to you right now just because Moss is busy setting up the other computer or restoring power. And so once that's up, we'll finish the offer. But I will tell you, since I have you here, so the NLP Power Master and Mentoring Archive is a great thing to take your skill sets to a whole other level. The face reading for fun and profit level 2 will round out your training. So now you have the sides of the face, the profiles, everything below the mask. So now you are equipped to profile people anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance. Finally, the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you guys a choice. Actually, I'm going to give you an extra bonus today. You guys have been amazing in that you've been patient and dealt with these tech snafus. So I'm going to actually do something that's not in my slides. But first and foremost, for those of you who have clicked that link, you didn't know this, but you actually just got a VIP ticket to our next influence training. It's called NLP Ultra. It's based on the Defense Against the Dark Arts
and killer influence curriculums, and it will take your skills to a whole new level. For those of you who want to get certified in face reading, I'm going to give you guys a choice. You can either come to NLP Ultra, or we have a face reading 3-day certification coming up. And it's actually an introduction to the classical Chinese face reading system that I learned, the 5-element energetics, combined with the modern approach. And that's going to be in April. When you click your link and you reach out to Moss, just let him know which of those classes you want to attend, and we will give you the VIP ticket for that. Okay. What I'd like to do also as an unannounced bonus is I would like to offer you guys an extra VIP ticket. And this one is going to be for the in April, we have our next 3-day virtual healing intensive. So a lot of times what happens is people reach out to me and they don't necessarily want to get certified. They don't want to learn how to do these techniques to help other people, which is okay. They just want to fix their own stuff. And so people have 2 basic approaches. They either come to the training, they learn how to do this to fix their own stuff, and then they go out and they never do anything with it, or they want to do one-on-one sessions with me. I'm pretty pricey. So what I decided to do as a way for people to get the help they need without having to become certified in something is I created the virtual healing intensive, where you come in, and for 3 days, I guide you through one process after another, and it's all designed to clear your blocks to success, clear your limiting beliefs, install traits, qualities, and characteristics that you want more of. And so, because you guys have been really patient and dealt with a lot of these tech snafus, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to give you guys. Now, this offer is only good while I'm still logged on the webinar, and I'm going to be bouncing back to the other computer shortly, but I have you here now, so I wanted to keep the continuity going, because I usually give a break after this part, so we go into phase 3 without a problem. So here's what you're going to get. You're going to get the, if you click on your link right now, in addition to all the things I've talked about, you're going to get a VIP ticket to either NLP Ultra coming up in May, which is either you can do it live or virtual. I prefer you there live, but there is a virtual option. You can come to face reading for fun and profit certification this April, and get certified as a face reader, so you can add all the income streams that we were talking about. So you get to choose which one you want. And so when you click the link and you grab your program, in the notes section, if you can give us a little heads up as to which ticket you want, we'll move you into that training. But all of you are going to get, those of you who click the link, all of you are going to get another VIP ticket to our virtual healing intensive. Now, this healing intensive you can do from the privacy of your own home. We will never release these intensives as a product or any form of YouTube video whatsoever. So your privacy within that small group is a safe space. And I will literally take the gloves off, and we will go through change process after change process after change process, so that when you come out on the other side, you're different, and you're different in all the ways you want to be different. And you have a clear path on how to continue that momentum going forward. So the total combined value of everything, not counting the virtual intensive, which is an extra $1,500, by the way, if you were to buy it through the website, the total combined value of everything in the webinar package tonight is $14,132. If you were to go to the website and try to buy these things individually, you couldn't do it for less than $14,132. But if you click your links right now, you will get every single thing I've talked about instantly for one installment of $997, or you can break that up into 3 installments of $397 each. So all you got to do is go to www.nlppower.com/face. That's www.nlppower.com/FACE. Click your links right now, because here's the thing. When I log off the webinar, and we're going to be together for a while. I have a whole other section I'm going to teach you guys. I'm going to finish the facial map. I'm going to keep some of the promises I made during part 1. where we talk about getting marks to clear, deception detection. We talked about those things. We're going to cover those in phase 3 of tonight's webinar. This is phase 2 right now. This is what I call taking it further, right? So I wanted to give you guys a heads up. Click the link before we get to phase 3 or before the break. Click the link so your spot is reserved, because we only like 14 or 15 seats left for the healing intensive, because we cap it at 30. You'll be able to do that from home. So once again, let's recap. You're going to get face reading for fun and profits level 1, $1,997 value. You're going to get defense against the dark arts, counter manipulation and profiling, speed profiling techniques, $1,997 value. You're going to get the identity by design hypnotherapy home study course, $1,497 value. You're going to get the face reading for fun and profit level 2, $1,497 value. And then finally, $1,997 value. And then you're going to get people reading for fun and profit, body language secrets, and more, $1,497 value. And when you click that link right now, you're also going to get the 3-month NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. That's a $1,997 value with the archive. You're going to get the face reading for fun and profit level 2. And you're also going to get the VIP ticket to either Defense Against the Dark or NLP Ultra. Either NLP Ultra or face reading certification level 1 coming up in April. And all of you will qualify for the VIP ticket for the virtual healing intensive coming up in April as well. So $14,132 value. Go ahead and click your links right now. Let's take a 7-minute break, or let's take a 7-minute break. We'll come back and we'll pick up with part 3 of our webinar, and we'll finish the facial map. We'll look at a little bit about lie detection, and also how to start the process of making lines go away. All right, we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, folks, I'm back a little early from break, so I have my Zoom chat open. I don't have my YouTube chat open because everything closed down when the power went out. But anyway, so if you guys have questions that I can answer for you for in the next couple minutes before we move on to phase 3, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and play a little AMA for a couple minutes. YouTube address for the that is a really good question. Restore session. Let's see if I get my session back without blowing up my computer. Oh, there's my chat box. Can you guys hear me? All right. I'll have to look at my YouTube channel. I promise you, I'll tell you what, I will post the link. Because I don't know the link. I have to actually access the back end of my YouTube to do that for you. But as soon as I log off, Seth posted it for us. Thank you, Seth. Seth is such a useful guy sometimes. Oops, not select all. Okay, good. For my lovely family out in YouTube land, my apologies for all the tech snafus. Hopefully you heard my me picking up and ending with the certification program on the other line. Okay, Edie was asking for the replay. You guys have any other questions that I can answer before we go in? We finish up the emotional map. We talk about the processes for erasing lines, things of that nature. Botox. No, and based on, it's because of my training as a face reader and because I'm working on a second doctorate in medical Qigong, I got to tell you guys, Botox is a bad idea. Not just because anytime you intentionally injecting neurotoxin into your body, that's a bad idea, right? But if the wrinkle is if losing the wrinkle is more important than a healthy liver, who am I to judge, right? But yeah, Botox is an issue. You got to remember, this is really important, and this is something that whether you're studying the modern approach to face reading, which is what I'm sharing with you today, or you're coming from the classical Chinese medical perspective, you have to understand everything in the body is a feedback loop. Everything affects everything else somehow, some way. Your organs affect your emotions affect your organs. All of that affects your behaviors and your perceptions and it's all connected. It's all interrelated. And so when you inject anything toxic into that system, you're going to have the effect that hopefully you're going to have the effect that you wanted, but there's going to be all these other side effects, ramifications of that thing. So where a lot of people get Botox is in this area right here. And so you'll see that there won't be any movement there. They'll be very smooth. And that's fine. It'll be very hard to read their expressions. But it also will have an effect on their liver and their gallbladder, because that part of the face is connected to that organ and that energy system. And so anything that affects the organ affects the face and the energy system. Anything that affects the energy system affects the organ and the face, and anything that affects the face affects the organ and the energy system. And it's all interconnected. So a lot of times people who Botox wind up losing an ability to express certain kinds of emotions. And anytime we limit our ability to express an emotion, we create additional toxicity in the body. How many of you guys were on earlier when I was talking about getting rid of wrinkles and aging? And I said that my teacher taught me that aging, physical aging in the face especially, is a result of emotional toxicity. And that when you clean out the toxic emotions, the face gets younger, right? It's the same thing. It's a feedback loop. And so we got to understand that everything's connected. Okay. All right. So are we all back from our break? Did y'all click the link like I told you to? Hopefully you did. If not, do it now, right? Great. Bridget's with us. Alexander, did you click the link, young man? Right. And yes, we're back. Excellent. Very good. All right. So before all of our tech snafus, and hopefully we're done. That was 3, so we should be done. We talked about skepticism. We talked about joy. We talked about mania. We talked about sadness, sorrow, and grief. And we talked about lost loves. Okay. We also mentioned that physiologically, many people with those markings will present with some kind of lung or pulmonary issue, pulmonary hypertension. Another one. Let me close my door. Okay. So if you are a doctor or someone who works in the physiological side of things, start paying attention. Notice the pattern if there is one, right? Next, we're going to talk about some other really important emotions that I think you should be aware of, especially if you're some kind of clinician. And those emotions are humor, bitterness, over-nurturing, disappointment, and fear. So humor, bitterness, over-nurturing, disappointment, fear. These are all seen in the lower part of the body. So if I go to my handy dandy OneNote, so in our previous module, we were all up here at the 12 through 3 o'clock side of the face, right? Now we're going to look at the lower half of the face from the 4 o'clock position to the 8 o'clock position. So when people have a good sense of humor, if you look at their lower lip, they will see a tiny crease right in the lower lip. This is somebody who not only appreciates a good joke, very often they can tell a good joke too, right? So they have a good, well-developed sense of humor. They're fun, okay? Now, does that mean if they don't have this line that they're a buzzkill? No. Is the possibility higher? Yeah. Now, there is a marking on here that is not on the map that I want you guys to be aware of. And that's simply because it is kind of the inverse in many cases. It can be the inverse of a good sense of humor. And that's when the space between the nose and the upper lip is very small. A very short, this is called the filtrum area. And when that filtrum is very small, it doesn't mean they have a bad sense of humor directly. What it does indicate, froze up again. I don't get it.
You're just too magical, David. Where the fuck's the charger? I thought I brought it up. There it is.
It just rebooted or something.
It might be time to. Oh, hello.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea I was so magical. All right, it's okay, guys. I don't mind if you can hear me. I'm a human being, and it's okay, right? I'm at a loss as to why all of these issues are happening today. I don't know if we've got sunspots, if my biorhythm is at an all-time low, my astrological sign is circling Uranus. I have no idea what's going on, but we're booting up the backup just in case, but let's continue with this. So I was talking about a short filtrum. So if you
Short filter. Oof.
Yeah, short filtrum. Oof. There's actually a couple of traits that aren't on this map that I would say are watch out zones, but we don't have time for every single one. When you come to face reading in April, I'll show you. I'll pull back the curtain and I'll show you all the hell traits. One of the things I will tell you though, when I start showing you these hell traits in April, when you see them in other people, don't say anything. Don't tell them they have this trait. A, because you'll trigger the trait, and B, they'll deny it. I promise you, there's one trait, little fleshy lip, little fleshiness on the lip. You call anybody on that, if they have it, they'll explode on you. I promise you, right? Unless you've got super rapport and you super soften, they're going to jump right into denial. Okay, so that's why it's really, really important that because you can read it doesn't mean you need to say anything about it. It's actually safer, and from an intelligence perspective, from an operational perspective, unless you're physically being hired for change work or as a face reader, it's a good idea to use the information but not tell people what you know, because people will change their behaviors or try to change their behaviors, but they'll tend to change it. So this little fleshiness on the lip, these people will create drama everywhere they go. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I won't tell you what that drama looks like. Moss is saying yes, it's true. So that's one of the things. But let's go back to the short filtrum. When the filtrum is very short, the space between the base of the nose and the upper lip is very small. This person is very, very sensitive to criticism, or, very important, if it's really short, perceived criticism. Let's be honest. We're all sensitive to a certain degree to criticism. But people with a super short filtrum, they actually border on paranoid. They'll literally many times make movies in their head of people criticizing them and act as if those movies are true. Right? And there's actually a handwriting analysis trait that I have correlated this with. And so if I see the short filtrum, if I can get a copy of their handwriting, I'm gonna look at their D loops. How about a pronounced filtrum? Natalie, what do you mean when you say a pronounced filtrum? You mean a large one, like one that sticks out? Okay, don't get me started on filtrums, because I literally have 50 different models of a filtrum. Okay, I'll tell you what, at the risk of locking up my computer again, do you guys want to see a little bit more on filtrums? Or not? Or do you want me to just finish the emotional map? Filtrum is not yes, please isn't an answer. You either want me to finish the emotional map or you want me to talk about filtrums. Just type, okay, so Natalie says filtrum. Filtrum that Edie says. Okay, I got 2 votes for filtrum. If you guys don't speak up, I can't help you. Filtrum, okay. All right. Let me see if I can get my my OneNote operating well again, and we'll see what's going on. All right. I don't normally show filtrums during a webinar, but I guess it's a good change up. Actually, I may have to I may have to jump to another notebook, but here. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Everybody pray. Pray to the internet gods. All right, so when you look at the space, and for those of you who don't know what a filtrum is, it's that space between your upper lip and the base of your nose. So this is called a needle filtrum. And the needle filtrum refers to a filtrum that is too thin and too narrow, and it appears on the face as a needle. Generally, the needle filtrum is not something that we want to see at all. It tends to be the harbinger of bad news, and it only denotes an inauspicious future. The feature indicates a lack of support, and this is the part that I want you guys to zero in on. The feature can indicate a lack of support from family members and friends after middle age. So that's more of a diagnostic fortune-telling thing. It also denotes a big transition that takes place around the age of 50 that can lead to poor quality of life after. So let's actually look at the basics of filtrum reading, because this is something that you can use. I may have to go to, all right. All right. Next filtrum is a curve filtrum. Curve filtrum formation is indicated when the filtrum inclines to the left or right. So let's look at the diagram here. So you see how this, in the previous model, this is very straight, but very narrow. In this particular instance, the filtrum is much wider, and we'll talk about width in a minute. But you see how it curves here, right? And by the way, the filtrum itself is related to creative acts like procreation and creativity. So when you see somebody with a very prominent filtrum, a very deep, wide filtrum, you're looking at somebody who has a deep reservoir of yin energy. In other words, they have a deep level of creativity that needs to be expressed. Now, that creativity can be expressed as actual children, right? Or it can be expressed as giving birth to something else, a book, a painting, a sculpture, anything where you're creating a piece of music. The deeper and wider the filtrum, the more robust that reservoir is. So the narrower the filtrum doesn't necessarily mean that you're weak, although what I showed you can absolutely indicate that. It means a much narrower reservoir. So when we look at filtrums, we're generally looking at the shape of the filtrum, we're looking at the width of the filtrum, and the depth of the filtrum. Now, the first trait I gave you was a short filtrum. In other words, is it very long or is it very short? The longer the filtrum is, you can imagine. These people can probably be a little better at handling criticism, but there are other factors that could make them hypersensitive. But the deeper and wider the filtrum, the more people need to be creative. The more people need to express it in some way. Now, if you have a real long, deep, wide filtrum, you're built for children. You're built to just create babies, right? But if you're not going to have babies, then you need to give birth to something else, a book, a sculpture, a system, a work of art, music, something creative. You need to get that to be healthy, right? Otherwise, that energy is going to stagnate, okay? Okay, let me look at my, all right. So normally when I'm teaching, and you'll learn this when you come to face reading in April, we'll talk about filtrum shapes and what they indicate. What's interesting about the filtrum, I'll give you this last thing before we jump back into emotions. What's interesting about the filtrum is that you can think of it like the fuel gauge of the body. Like, you know how when you're driving, right, and you have your gas gauge, right? And as the tank gets emptied, it moves. What's interesting about the filtrum is that the filtrum will tell you how your energy is going to be released and accessed over the course of your life. So, for example, if you have a diamond-shaped filtrum, so a diamond-shaped filtrum is small at the top, and then it gets wider, and then it gets smaller. What that indicates is that you may, as a child, have been a little on the wimpy side. Your constitution wasn't great, your energy level wasn't too high. But as you got older, you got physically stronger, healthier, and more robust. And so your midlife, you're going to have this abundance of energy. And then as you age, the energy starts to decline again. So that is the transition of what the Chinese call your jing, or your hormonal physical essence, the vitality of your body. Okay. If you have a filtrum that's shaped like a trapezoid, it's bigger here and then it gets smaller. You have somebody who has a lot of energy, a lot of constitution, very athletic, or has a lot of physical potential in their early years. And as they get older, it slowly declines. We see this a lot in high school superstars. People who peak in high school, you know who I'm talking about, right? Super strong at the beginning, and then they just kind of peter out, never really launch beyond high school, right? A lot of times that's an overgeneralization, but that's what I think of when I think of that particular filtrum designation. You got somebody who's got a lot of energy when they're young, and they can do all these things, but as they get older, they kind of get frailer, right? And then you have my filtrum, which is it's the inverse. It starts small, an inverted trapezoid. It comes out and gets bigger as it goes down towards the lip. This is someone who doesn't have as much energy in their childhood. They're a little sickly. I had a lot of allergies and all kinds of health problems as a kid. I wasn't real physical. I just wasn't a physical spent. I was bigger around than I was tall, right? But as I got older, my health and my vigor, my athleticism started to grow and improve because I was getting access to more of my physical energy, your hormones and stuff like that. So when you see that kind of a filtrum, you're looking at somebody who is going to get strong, who's going to tend to get stronger as they get older, right? So, Sem says Trump's little. I don't even want to know what body part you're referring to, but we'll leave that up to your imagination. Okay, is this helpful? Is this useful? Now, when you guys look in the mirror, if your filtrum is big as you get older, get off your butt and go do physical stuff. You got energy for it. Okay. And by the way, click that link so I can teach you more in April. Do this. Okay. Let's go back to emotions. Share screen. All right. Okay, so I talked about sense of humor. Make this bigger. So sense of humor can be seen by the single line at the lip. If you pay attention now to these lines here, what the heck? Well, for some reason, my pointer is now not working. So all I can blame this on is I did a pulling down the heavens exercise right before the webinar. So this line here, these vertical lines are what are known as bitterness lines, or they're over nurturing lines. So the way these come about is if you are in a relationship. Now it can be a parent relationship where you're a parent, you're caregiving a parent, or you're a parent caregiving a child, or you're a husband caregiving a wife caregiving anybody, or if you're like a home health aide, a hospice nurse that is just over demanding on you, what will start to happen is you will start to develop these lines above your lip. And this indicates somebody who is giving more than they are receiving. These people usually grow up, and as they were growing up, they were taught that you should always be giving to people, and that if you give to the world will give back to you. And they internalize that rule, and they live to make that rule happen. The problem is that the rule doesn't work in their life the way they think it's supposed to. So these people are constantly giving and giving and giving and giving, waiting for the world to give back, but it never does. And so they get increasingly more frustrated and disappointed. And that's where this line comes in. This is a disappointment line. So if you spend a lot of time yelling at your kids, or your kids are constantly not living up to the standards that you've made, you may develop these lines. If you've got employees who are constantly underperforming, you'll start to develop these lines. If your spouse is not doing it for you, and every day it's an exercise in tolerance, you may start to develop these lines. Okay, they're an indication that you're not good with what's going on in your life, and you're repressing and denying it, and you need to fix it. Right, one way or another, you need to fix it. Okay. Finally, if you look at these little lines on the lower lip, these little vertical lines here, these lines are called bitterness lines. Okay. And the thing about bitterness lines is that we become so disappointed, we lapse into disillusionment, and then we become resentful, and that turns into bitterness. And any of these by themselves is a problem. However, when you have all three, when you have over-nurturing and disappointment and bitterness, you now have a recipe for terminal or chronic illness, usually cancer. When it's not cancer, it's usually some form of intestinal issue or heart issue, like IBS or Crohn's or what's the other one? IBS, Crohn's. Anyway, a lot of times this stuff will go to the intestines, but bitterness also travels to the heart and to the liver. So it's not uncommon for people to manifest some kind of terminal or chronic illness. So now that doesn't mean if you see all three of these markings that you're going to get cancer. It does indicate, though, that there's some serious cleanup that needs to happen, and the only one that's going to be able to do that is you, right? So it's important for you to seek out somebody who can let you purge and cleanse that emotional toxicity, right? If your clients show up with these, I guarantee if you regress the cause and get back to the initial sensitizing events, things of that nature, you're probably going to wind up dealing with some form of bitterness or resentment. Okay. All right. What if bitterness lines are not perpendicular but move away at a 45-degree angle from the central line? Terry, I'd have to see it, but barring any other indications, the first thing I would ask is, does that person have any kind of intestinal issue, either in the small intestine or the large intestine? Because the area around the lips is physiologically, in Chinese medicine, relates to the small and large intestine. And so if you see a lot of markings in that area, ask if they've got any kind of autoimmune or like Crohn's disease, IBS. I can't remember the other. There's another one that sometimes chronic fatigue, but those kinds of things. So like I said, the amazing thing about face reading is we can profile anything. If we want to profile somebody's emotional health, it's right there. It's just literally, it's as plain as the nose on your face, right? If we want to profile their constitution and trauma history, it's right there. If we want to look at the health of their internal organs, it's right there. Okay. We just have to know what layer of the face we're looking for. Okay. All right. So before I move on, if it's okay with you, I'd like to put a little reminder out there that the fast action bonuses, the ones that we keep talking about, keep teasing about, they're going to go away as soon as I log off this webinar. So if you haven't clicked the link, when would now be a good time to click that link? Let's just go through this again. So for those of you who are ready to rock and roll, you're going to get the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study Course, valued at $1,997. You're going to get the Defense Against the Dark Arts, counter manipulation and speed profiling course, $1,997. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Identity by Design home study course valued at $1,497. You're going to get people reading for fun and profit home study course valued at $1,497. You're going to get the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, also $1,997 value. The Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2 home study course, $1,997 value. And of course, you're going to get that VIP super ticket to either your choice. This is, again, a special because of all the tech snafus. You're going to get your choice of either access to the 5-day NLP Ultra Practitioner Certification Boot Camp. It's a $3,150 value, May 21st to the 25th, 2024 here in San Diego. Or if you give us, put a note in your order that you want the 3-day Face Reading for Fun and Profit certification track, which includes the training in the 5-element face reading system as well, an introduction to the 5 elements. Also, you can do that, or you can do that instead in April. I think it's the 23rd through the 25th. I think Seth was posting that in the chat earlier. I don't see it, but anyway, so just let us know which is which. Terry says, thanks, David. I invested again because I'm so hooked on a feeling. Terry, you rock. I love you. All right. Make sure you click your links because I want you all there. This is a lot of fun. And I like to hang out with cool people who like to do cool stuff. And also, as a free bonus, anybody who's clicked that link between now and the end of the webinar, you're going to get another VIP ticket to our 3-day virtual healing intensive, also coming up in April. And you can do that one from the safety and comfort of your own home. And it's just you and me and a small group of people going through one change process after another. Total value on this is $14,132. You can get it all for one installment of $997, or if you want, you can break that up into 3 easy installments of just $397 each. Just click that link in your chat. It's www.nlppower.com/face, right? nlppower.com/face. All About Balance is asking, can the 5-day boot camp be followed online? Yes. All of our events, unless otherwise noted going forward, will probably have a hybrid option available. But let me talk to you about that really quick. Okay. You guys have probably figured out by now that I really, really love and care about what I do. And I care about the people who come to learn it. And to me, teaching you to be the best practitioner humanly possible is, to me, a sacred duty. A, because it's my name on the certificate. But B, because people are going to rely on you. People are going to look up to you to be an excellent practitioner, to have high-level skills so that you can help them. And I would assume you want that too. So here's the thing. Yes, we will have a hybrid option for people who want to be certified practitioners. However, I strongly encourage you to show up for the live event if it's possible, so that we can make sure you get a full immersion the way our proven system has worked. We will take you from 0 to hero in 3 or 5 days, depending on what the event is. We are working very, very hard on finding ways to make our virtual training as skill building and comprehensive as our live events. Because of that, we are implementing certain rules and certain additional standards. If you want to take the hybrid option, you can absolutely do that. But you may find that the amount of repetitions that we ask of you for each module, for each required exercise, things of that nature, you may have more reps to do, and you may have a little bit more extra work to submit so that you can demonstrate the level of proficiency we like to expect from our students. Yeah, I'm just going to be very, very upfront with you on that, because I am a firm believer in the power of online learning. I also know the drawbacks of online learning. And I've seen way too many programs, especially in the hypnosis world, where people can start a 6-month hypnosis and hypnotherapy training program. They come out of it as a certified hypnotist, and they've never hypnotized another fucking human being. And to me, that's criminal, right? I mean, how do you do that? I mean, if all you want is a certificate, great, I get that. But how are you serving anybody? By just giving people the illusion that they're competent just because they can answer a test. That's not enough in my world. I'm sorry. I understand that online learning has its place, and I support that. And I want you guys to do as much of it as you can. But I want you to do it in a way that when you step away from that training, you have the ability to do something. And you can do it anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. So my sacred duty is to help you be the best at this that you can be, using whatever medium is possible. So when you click that link, think about how you want to go about this and make appropriate arrangements. Okay. So, and I don't normally break the third wall, but can you guys get behind that? Is that something that maybe I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said it? What do you guys think? Everybody got very quiet all of a sudden. Bridget says, say it. All right. People deserve that information. I may say whatever you mic to us. Okay. Anyway, I want you to be good. That's really what it comes down to, right? Because I some of you know this, some of you don't. I taught hypnosis and NLP for 10 years for free before I was willing to certify another human being. And the reason for that was because I ran one of the largest hypnosis and NLP practice groups in the world, called the Los Angeles Sleepwalkers. And we saw the product of every hypnosis and NLP training organization pretty much on the planet come through that training. And so many of them had paid all this money for all these certificates, and they either couldn't do anything when asked, or they would sit there and criticize the people learning and practicing, and they would quote Bandler or Grinder chapter and verse, right, or Elman this or Erickson that. And when you asked them to get up and demonstrate what they were talking about, they would find an excuse not to do it. And I made a very, very emotional, but I think it was the right decision, that I was not going to be part of that machine, that I was not going to just hand out certificates because somebody sat in the chair, right? So if you want a certificate that means something, click that link right now and show up, right? That's all I got to say. All right, so I'm going to give you, we're kind of running out of time, and you guys have been such troopers. So I just want to say, click the link right now, grab your courses. All About Balance says, I understand live is always better, but and not scared to do some extra. Oh, great. Hey, if you're in Europe or Belgium and getting here, I have people in Australia on my last class. Look, if the hybrid option is the best you can do and you're willing to do the work, I will move heaven and earth to make sure you're the best practitioner you can be in that medium. That's my commitment to you and my team. Moss is there, Holly's there, Heather will be there, Seth will be there. That's our job. There's too many people out there who need this for us to do alone. There's 8 billion people on this fucking planet, and maybe 100 of us total that are out there doing this work. A lot of people come through the trainings and they're doing it at some level, but on a professional level. So the world needs you. That's it. Okay. All right. So let me see if I can get back to my emotionals page. And we probably won't be able to finish the emotional map. I may just cover some of the other things before this goes too long. Yeah, something's kind of wonky with I think it's with Zoom, but I can't. Whoops. I don't know what's going on. I may have to defrag the hard drive or something. All right, so we've covered over nurturing, we've covered disappointment, we've covered bitterness. Now, another thing I want you to look at, especially in children, and I apologize because for some reason my cursor is not behaving. Okay, good. So next thing I want you guys to look at is this area on the chin. Now on the diagram, you'll notice what look like little lines, right? But what I have seen out in the real world is if you've ever looked at somebody's chin, you know what an orange peel looks like? You know the little dimples in an orange or an orange peel or a grapefruit peel? When you look at the chin and you see those little dimples, that's someone who's been repressing a lot of fear. Now, notice what I said, repressing. When we're looking at these emotional markings, we are looking at emotions that these people have not fully processed. They've either repressed them, they're in denial of them, or they cut the grieving or processing time short. It's especially true. It's especially true when we're looking at grief lines, grief and lost love lines. And here's my theory on this. One of the problems that we have is that we have you guys know you have three brains, right? You have first of all, the brain stem, right? The brain stem. And then over that, you have the mammalian brain or the limbic system. And then over that, you have what is commonly referred to as the neocortex. The neocortex is the only part of you that actually uses spoken language or verbal language to process information. Your mammalian brain, which is your limbic system, and your brainstem or reptile brain all work in visual kinesthetic distinctions. Now, why is that even remotely important? It's because each layer of your brain speaks a slightly different language. And so one of the things that you'll learn when you come to Identity by Design or face reading or NLP Ultra is that there are 6 dynamics of an unconscious response. Your unconscious response or unconscious mind, which is your mammalian brain, your reptilian brain, your brainstem, your spinal cord, that part of you always answers questions first. It always answers honestly. It always feels like you're making it up. You always have an urge to edit what just came up. It's never loud and it's never linear. If you understand those 6 dynamics, you can literally dialogue with different parts of your nervous system and get just about any change that you want. Okay? If you want to be more successful with your hypnosis, NLP, or other trance work type clients, teach them these 6 dynamics before you do any work with them, because that will actually lend credibility to what they're most likely to experience during your change work process. Now, what does that all have to do with face reading? When you experience a trauma, like let's say, well, I'll give you a couple examples. Maternity leave, right? You're given, you're going to have a baby, you have a baby, you get 3 months maternity leave, right? And then what? You got to go back to work, right? If you have a job and you have a death in the family, you get 6 weeks bereavement leave or something like that. Yes? Some people, some places it's longer. Here's the problem with that. Your unconscious mind may need 8, 10, 12, 6 months to finish the grieving process. But if your conscious mind says I have 6 weeks to grieve and then get back to work. Well, let's say you need 12 weeks. But at the 6-week mark, you have to go back to work. So you know what you do? You intentionally say, no, I'm not going to think about that anymore. So half your grief is processed, the other half isn't. It goes into storage. And now, every time you encounter a situation, circumstance, or event in the outer world that is a trigger for that repressed grief, it's going to trigger the grief again, and you're going to have to lock it down. Why? Because you're done grieving consciously. And so every time that energy tries to come up, your unconscious mind has to marshal that energy to stuff it back down, and it keeps building that emotional charge, and the lines get longer and deeper. Why? Because you didn't finish the grieving process. You cut that process short because you made it your conscious mind, your neocortex made an arbitrary decision. Says, this is how long it's going to take me to process this. And you hit that benchmark, your conscious mind says, okay, we're done. The unconscious mind says, but we're not done. The unconscious mind says, we're done. You say, okay, I'll stuff this, and you let me know when it's okay to finish. Does this sound familiar? By the way, you've all experienced this in a much smaller way. How many of you here know what a car is? Anybody? Type it in the chat. All right, good. How many people here know what a bright sunny day is? How many people here know what a radio is? Oh, I only ride camels. Nice. So let me see if this has ever happened to any of you. How many of you have ever been driving in your car on a bright sunny day? If you're in Europe, you're driving on this side. If you're in America, you're driving on this side, right? But you're driving along, radio's cranking, sun is shining, great day. And all of a sudden, a shitty memory from when you were 7 just pops up out of nowhere. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you immediately pull off to the side of the road, throw the car in park, turn off the radio, turn off the engine, slam on the parking brake, and dive in and root out that negative emotion? You probably said no to that, right? What do you do? Well, if you're like most people, you turn the radio up, step on the gas, say, yeehaw, motherfucker, and you stuff it back down. Still driving, that's right. Well, what do you think just happened? You just added additional charge to the repressed emotion. Why? Because part of the nervous system's job is to purge trauma. It's built in, you have these built-in trauma ejection mechanisms that will activate spontaneously and will purge your body of crap if you let it. Again, when you come to NLP Ultra, we'll go deep dive into that because it's important to understand. Because if we can reclaim those trauma recovery mechanisms, man, we can do a lot of therapy on our own, like a lot. Okay. So that's the same mechanism. When you have something that takes 3 months to process, but you only allow yourself a month for that to happen, that extra charge goes in the body and it stays there. And like anything that's stagnant, it putrefies. It gets more toxic as time goes on, and you will start to mark. At some point, you'll reach a critical mass in your body, and it will manifest as a physiological illness or a maladaptive behavior. Okay? Face reading can give us a glimpse into where are the problem areas and how do we fix it before it becomes a deeper problem, right? So I'm going to really, really recommend that if you're in the helping profession, coaching, mentoring, you get the face reading training, because trust me, it will jack your credibility and your efficacy with your clients, with your family, with your significant others, with your friends, off the charts. So click your links now, okay? www.nlppower.com/face. If you need extra help or consideration, reach out to Moss or Mia, and they're happy to help you work out whatever program is right for you. Now, a couple of things. You may have noticed when I went through the face reading program that you may have already bought some of the products listed in the package. that's okay. Click your link right now. And when you call Moss or Mia, let them know what programs you already have. And we will let you substitute any program of a lesser or equal value from our catalog. So you can customize your own program, right? So again, we want you to be as successful and competent and ready as humanly possible. We want you to be happy. So we don't want you paying good money for stuff you've already got. So just let us know, and we'll create a more boutique package. As long as the price points match up and everything, we'll create a boutique package for you. Okay. If you've already been through face reading certification and you want to gift your VIP ticket to somebody else, you can do that. If you can't make the upcoming events, but you still want to attend a training, let us know through email or through voicemail especially, and we will move you to the next training, and you'll still have that free seat. You won't, that technique, that VIP ticket won't expire until you actually use it. So you can gift it, you can use it at a later time. Every now and then, depending on the price points and the amount of days involved, we'll let you substitute it for a different training, right? We want you to have as much flexibility and adaptability in Planet David as humanly possible. We want you to really get the attention that you want and need, within limits, of course, you know. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, if for some reason you have one of these VIP tickets and we change the pricing of the event, so right now NLP Ultra is $31.50 at the door. Let's say 4 months from now we raise that to $37.50. Well, you still get to come. Still free for you because you got the VIP ticket, right? Let's say we raise the price of face reading to $47.50, right? Because of the income potential. You still get it free because you have the VIP ticket. So by all means, click the link and get your ticket, right? And then when you're ready to use it, let us know. That all we do ask is that if you decide to come to an event at the last minute, let us know. Don't just show up, because we try to have all the materials made in advance based on the amount of confirmed attendees, right? We always have a couple of extras just in case, because we've been doing this a while. But just let us know. Just communicate with us, right? We're very flexible. We want to help, and we do it again. And remember, we have a no drama policy, so we don't care how much you pay. If you cause way too much drama, if you have a very fleshy lip, we're going to watch. Okay. That being said, let me go ahead and just do one last reminder call for this. So just to remind you, this is what you're getting. You get the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study Course valued at $1,997. You're going to get the Defense Against the Dark Arts Home Study Course valued at $1,997. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Identity by Design Home Study Course valued at $1,497 free. People Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study Course valued at $1,497. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Trial plus the archive, 13-year archive, $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2 Home Study Course. So that's everything below the mask, side of the head, ears, stuff. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. And then finally, you're going to have your choice, VIP super ticket. You can come to our next Face Reading for Fun and Profit practitioner certification, or you can jump into our next 5-day NLP Ultra practitioner certification, valued at $3,150. And that's coming up May 21st through the 25th here in San Diego. Total package value is $14,132. You can get it all for just $997, or just break that up into 3 easy installments of $397 each. And just click nlppower.com/face, and we'll get you reserved. All right. Real quick, like a bunny, as one of my teachers used to say. Let's look at more face traits, and then we're going to call it a day. Some really powerful traits I want you to look at, and you're going to see these a lot. We're going to go right to the center of the body now. Okay, so if you look at the center of the face, one of the right between the eyes, what you're going to notice here is two lines. We call these lines irritation, annoyance, or impatient lines. So you'll see the irritation and annoyance in California drivers. And then when they're not driving, you'll see these everywhere else. So this is a really important trait, because if you see these, this person is prone to impatience. You're going to have to give them good reasons why they have to wait for something. Now, if you see three lines here, this is somebody who has found a way to manage their impatience. They've actually overcome the problem. So now when they get annoyed or impatient, New York and Washington drivers, yes, right? Pretty much drivers anywhere there's traffic, any big city, right? So when you see three lines, it's somebody who's actually a little bit more evolved. They've managed to overcome that issue. Every now and then, I'm having trouble with, for some reason, I can't seem to get my my pen to work. So let me try this. There we go. So that's what three lines look like. Every now and then, though, you'll see somebody with one big line or one small line right down the center of their face. This is in Chinese diagnostics and face reading. We call this line a suspended needle if it's small, or a suspended sword if it's long and big and deep. This particular line has a lot of different connotations, some of which are self-sabotage, anger at a parent or sibling, and a need to prove oneself a lot of times. So don't be surprised if these people are always kind of engaging in passive aggressive behavior, trying to prove how smart they are, how competent they are, how much better they are than everybody else. These people often, the genesis of this is often in anger at a parent towards a son or daughter, or a son or daughter towards a parent. It can go either way. But a lot of times you'll see a lot of self-sabotage in this behavior. And the reason is this area of the body is connected to the wood element of the body, which is connected or affiliated with the liver and the gallbladder area of the body. The wood element of your body is your achievement energy. It's the energy that allows you to protect your boundaries, that allows you to take chances and go for things and accomplish and win. And so what happens when you see this line, what someone has done, for good reason usually, but not healthy reasons, is they've taken the reservoir of energy and they've literally cut it in half. They've literally placed an arbitrary barrier on their energy. Usually because they acted in anger and it was punished very, very badly, and they made some kind of it's conscious or unconscious decision that they were never going to let that happen again. And they create a block that locks down their achievement. And at first it's not a problem, but the pattern that you'll see is these people will be very good at things, and they'll be on a fast track to what looks like being successful. And then they'll reach a moment where they stop progressing, and they'll just stop. They'll either blow up the job, they'll blow up the relationship, they'll lose interest in it, and they'll start something new, get to a certain level, and jump to something else. So a lot of times these people are jacks of all trades and master of a very, very few. Now, that doesn't mean they're not highly competent, but compared to what they could be achieving with that, they don't actualize. And the reason is because at some point in their life, that energy that's locked in here is going to stop them from moving forward. And when it stops them, when they reach that barrier inside, it's going to manifest as an argument or a disagreement, and they find a reason to leave. It's going to manifest as some kind of boredom, where they lose interest and they start something new. or it manifests a lot of times as passive aggressive behavior, or what's the other one I'm looking for? Passive aggressive, self-sabotage. They're just gonna stop. They lose interest, they blow it up, or they just leave. Can it cause dementia in older people? My experience hasn't been indicating that it can cause dementia. Can it contribute? Yes. Why? Because dementia is a form of dying without dying. It's a form of not wanting to be in the body anymore. And that's usually a result of repressed traumas and memories that people don't want to think about. They want to get away from, but they don't want to, they can't kind of take their own line. That's been the genesis of what we've looked at in medical Qigong, hypnosis, things of that nature. So I think dementia can be a factor, but I don't think it's a deep cause. What if that thick line comes over halfway down the nose? I'd have to see that. But if somebody's got that much resentment and that much anger, that's a problem. But it might also be indicative of something else, because if it's going down the face, it's passing through other parts of the body as well. So I would have to see that. Maybe some other time. I'm in the middle of a webinar, but we can talk about it during an AMA or a mastermind or something. All right, guys, that's about all we have time for. For those of you who stuck it out the entire way, we have a huge bonus package. Remember, you've got the 3-day healing intensive. You've got your VIP tickets to either Killer NLP Ultra or Face Reading Certification Level 1. And you've got all those fast action bonuses. So click that link now. In the immortal words of Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we've just got started. And before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night. Thank you so much for hanging out. I love you all. Click the link and I'll see you on the other side. God bless.